Hello, hello, hello. We are back today. We've got Katawa Shoujo again. Gonna start a whole new route today. Pretty fun stuff. Start off, since last stream was a PlayStation stream, and I didn't stream the day before, I missed a few follows. It's Starry and the Geese Master, thank you both for the follows. As you can tell on my overlay, I did remove the follower count thing because it was glitching out really, really badly. So, one second. Alright, let me double check my audio levels, just to be sure. And then we'll get into our second route of the game. Remember last time we finished up Lilly's route, or Hanako's route. Still absolutely love that route a lot. Cannot get over that enough. Mute my desktop audio so I can check my audio on Twitch. How do I navigate this damn site? I feel like I'm a little quiet, so bump my mic levels up. Let's see how it sounds with desktop audio on it too. Alright, I think we're good. I'm actually going to turn my fan out just a little bit because I know you can hear it in the background. It is unfortunately always hot in this apartment, so I can't exactly go without a fan. Alright. So, as you can see here, Hanako's route finished. So, start on this one. I should actually give a brief plot summary before go on, just because I'm starting this in the middle of everything. So what happened up to this point is Hiseo, the main character, had a heart attack when he was confessed to by a girl. It turned out that he had a problem with his heart that caused it to beat irregularly and could eventually kill him. After about 4 months in the hospital, he was told he could go to a new school, especially for people with disabilities. He went there. He became acquainted with the student council members, Shizune and Misha. Shizune is deaf. Misha is her interpreter. After a couple basic learning things like spend a day with them, see what they're all about. This, where we're at right now, is the first major decision in the route. So, and for Lily's route, we'll go talk with Hanako again. I still feel bad for making her run away yesterday, so I'd better say something. Hey there, Hanako. Hiseo? Well, at least she remembers my name. Hey, I just wanted to apologize for yesterday. I didn't mean to startle you or anything. I'm just new here and thought I should get to know my classmates. As Hanako looks up at me, I notice her scarring once more. It's a little bewildering that you can barely notice it from across the room, but it's so noticeable from close up. That's okay. It was my fault. Nah, that wasn't anyone's fault. It just kind of happened. So, are you waiting for someone? I saw you looking at the door before. Yes, Lily. Oh, you mean Lily, the blind girl. Hanako only nods in response, and I can't help but wonder if defining people through their disabilities is a faux pas of the worst kind, or just normal here. I guess that explains why Lily took off after her yesterday. She seemed like a nice girl. Are you two friends? Yes. As if hoping for Lily to appear, she checks over her shoulder again. I think I'm making her nervous again. I hope I'm not disturbing you right now. No, that's not it. It's just easier if Lily doesn't come here. Oh, because it's hard to get around the classroom? Not really. Hanako's gaze drifts past my shoulder and towards Shizune. Shizune? Hanako nods again. What about her? Don't they get along? Hanako shakes her head. Clearly this is something she doesn't want to talk about. It does make a strange sort of sense, Shizune and Lily not getting along so well. Communication between the two would be all but impossible. It's hard enough talking to Shizune through Misha, even when you can see whose hands are talking. Hanako is so focused on Shizune that I'm the first to notice Lily at the door. Oh, she's here now. Hanako spins around to confirm this. Upon seeing Lily, she moves quickly to the door. Lily. Ah, Hanako, good morning. Is the class president here? Yes. Hanako glances over her shoulder at Shizune again, as if to confirm she can't hear them even though that's impossible. I suppose we'd best be off then. Lily's sigh and tone of what seems like frustration makes me raise an eyebrow. I guess there's some kind of enmity between the two. It's intriguing, but that's not really something I'd ask about. I'm sure if they wanted me to know, then they would tell me. It's only my third day here. I should be trying to make friends, not finding out why people are enemies. Still, it's a little funny to find out that this school has little feuds, just like my old high school. Even if people are more tolerant of others, they're still going to get on each other's nerves. Hey, Lily, how are things? I'm sorry I made you run off yesterday. Oh my, is that Hiseo? I didn't realize you were here. Seems that Lily is a little embarrassed about being so frank in front of me. Sorry, Lily. I thought you realized. No, it's all right, Hanako. Hiseo, please don't worry about yesterday. It was just a misunderstanding. If you say so. I'm still working this place out. Well then, I think you'll find most people here a lot more forgiving than elsewhere. If you are feeling a little confused, please don't be afraid to ask questions. Sure, I'll remember that. Lily? Lily gives a small nod of acknowledgement. I'm sorry, Hiseo, but we must be off. Hanako really doesn't look all that comfortable here right now, and Lily still seems a little embarrassed. I wonder if my apologies really made any impact. Mind if I accompany you two? I know I'm kind of pushing it, but Lily hums quietly, still smiling. I'm sure that we could accommodate you, can't we, Hanako? She looks at Lily, then at me, then she freezes, wide-eyed. Sure. Well then, shall we go? I'm sure Lily wouldn't do this so easily if she saw how scared Hanako looks, but it can't be helped now. Declining after the deal is sealed would only cause confusion and problems. So we leave, all three together. Lily walks beside the wall, letting her cane gently tap against it every now and then. Hanako comes along right beside her, so close that she's practically half hugging her as they go. Although it must make her walking that much harder, Lily takes it in stride. As we turn around the corner of the hallway, something hits me in the chest with the force of a steam train. Hanako shrieks a little, and my vision briefly goes black. Ouch. Opening my eyes, I see a pair of saucer-like green eyes looking up at me. They belong to the perpetrator, a short girl who bumped into me and has now fallen down onto the hallway floor. She wears a PE uniform and a very worried frown. The former strikes me as a rather strange thing to have on during a lunch break. More striking than that, though, is that she doesn't have legs. Or she does, but they're not flesh and bone. Her pale and very much flesh and bone thighs end in shins and feet made of some black metallic or plastolike material. They look disturbingly artificial and unnatural. It almost makes me forget that my chest is hurting. The girl winces a little, rubs her nose, and jumps up. "Aw, man. Hey, are you alright? I'm sorry about that, really. I wasn't looking where I was going, and you came out of nowhere. Sorry. She's looking really apologetic, in the hurt puppy way of looking apologetic. I quickly forget about being angry or anything, since hurt puppies are my weak spot. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Ouch. I say that, but there's a stinging pain growing in my chest, and I know that this is about the biggest possible danger for my condition. Don't overexert yourself, don't forget your medication, and most of all, don't get hit in the chest. I try to rub my solar plexus to chase the pain away, holding my breath in an attempt to hear my heartbeat. Oh, it's raining. Okay, that... Sorry, that really threw me off. I thought, like... It must be really coming down. That's loud. Sorry. It seems normal. Hey, should I get a nurse? The worried, high-pitched voice of the girl snaps me out of it. I stare at her for a few seconds, dumbfounded, until I realize that I probably look worse off than I really was, doubled over myself and looking all tense. Damn, I'm overly worried about my heart. No need. I'm fine. Managing to say something in response, I pull myself upright, feeling my sore ribs one last time, and take a deep breath. She just knocked the wind out of me. Big time. But it's nothing more than that. You sure you're okay? I hit you pretty hard. It's okay. I said I was fine and nothing's broken. No harm. No harm done. That's good. Hiseo, what happened? She's not quite up to speed for obvious reasons, but she sounds very worried. More than what the situation deserves, really. Someone just bumped into me. Nothing serious. Just winded. Sorry, it's my fault. I was just going to get some stuff, and I was in kind of a hurry. That someone here is Emmy, isn't it? The little girl coughs quietly and shuffles her plastic or metallic feet, looking down at them before saying anything. Hi, Lilly. Hanako. I guess the girls know each other. Do please try to be more careful. You might be sturdy enough to endure those sorts of accidents, but there are people who aren't. The girl blushes and starts to fidget nervously like a little child caught misbehaving. It's so cute I find myself smiling. I know that. I was just... I gotta go. Teacher will have my head. I promised to help with the printouts, but I went running instead. Sorry, I've got to change in everything. Before any of us can say a thing, Emmy has already bolted away, leaving the hallway eerily quiet. Does that kind of thing happen often around here? There are more rules in Yamaku than usual for running in corridors. But that rarely stops Emmy, it seems. She shakes her head weakly and offers a slight, composed smile. I don't think there's anything we can do to stop her, I'm afraid. Shall we be off, then? Lilly heads off along the hallway, and Hanako hurries after her. The route to the room the two use for tea is fairly simple to retrace, being still fresh in my mind from yesterday. Lilly and Hanako quickly go about the business of making lunch. Before I can even open my small bag of food, Lily's busying herself with her thermos and tea bags, as Hanako is setting out both their lunch boxes. So, is this what you meant by coming here almost every day? Yes, Hanako and I usually have lunch here. It suits both of us, so we ended up using this room regularly. After seeing Hanako's reactions to me over the past couple of days, I can understand why that is a boon. That, and Lily being able to get some quiet away from her class as well. I take my seat last, after Lily's poured the tea for us and sits down. The more time I think I spend with these girls, the more I think they're a perfect foil to Misha and Shizune. Even without a voice, Shizune is direct and brash, and Misha seems to get along with everyone. On the other hand, Lily is soft-spoken and relaxed, while Hanako seems to be the shyest girl I've ever met. So, how are you faring in Yamaku, Hiseo? You seemed a bit flustered before. Apart from getting lost every now and again and being crash-tackled outside my classroom, fine, I guess. You looked pretty hurt before. Are you really okay? For a brief moment, I consider telling Hanako and Lilly about my condition, but then I hold it back. Oops. I can't tell why, but for some reason, I feel uncomfortable talking about it to these two relative strangers, even if they have been pretty friendly. Yeah, it's nothing. I was just a bit startled. Judging from the two girls' expressions, I don't think they're buying it, but in what I assume is their way of respecting my privacy, they don't press the matter. I guess that is one of the unwritten rules around here. Don't ask. Even if people's conditions are obvious like Hanako's, there's still bound to be a story involved. Everyone has things that they don't feel comfortable speaking about, and I think everyone here recognizes that. So, how long have you been in this school? You both seem to know your way around pretty well. Well, I've been here since the start of high school, but only moved into the dormitories a year ago. Hanako joined at the start of high school as well, and moved to the dormitories when she did, if memory serves me right. That's right, since high school. So you've known each other since then? Since I moved, yes. Hanako lives next door to me, so it's only natural, right? Right. Yeah, of course. Living next to someone is probably reason enough to befriend them, though I'm guessing that Lily's blindness played a part in it as well. I can't imagine Hanako easily making friends with someone who has to deliberately avoid looking at her scars. With the immediate conversation dried up, we start to eat our lunch. It isn't long before the bells are signaling the end of the break. Like me, the girls pack up their lunches as efficiently as they set them out. I guess I'd better be off. Are you going to go with Hiseo, Hanako? Hanako looks up at me, and for a second I can see she is considering skipping class. Maybe just to avoid walking to the classroom with me. Yes. I don't know what to think of it. Hanako really is delicate to the point of breaking if looked at in the wrong way. Makes me a little bit nervous too, but I push the feeling aside, trying to be as natural as I can. We should hurry then. Class has already started by the sound of it. Lily gives a nod of farewell as she bends down to take her cane. Hanako and I filing out before her. We walk quickly down the empty hallways to our respective classes. As we reach the door to Lily's 3-2 classroom, she turns toward me. Hiseo, thank you for sharing lunch with us today. My pleasure, Lily. And with that, we part ways. Lily entering her classroom and leaving Hanako and me to make off to our own. She's still looking like she wants to run away. So, do you really want to go back to class now? Yes. Okay then. I feel like I should say something more to her, but it's hard to come up with anything that would be appropriate and safe enough. And Lily was right. The more time we spend out here, the more explaining we have to do. I open the rear door to the class and walk in. The teacher looks up at me and opens his mouth to say something. However, as Hanako follows me in and closes the door, he simply nods to us and continues his lecture. This is the third time that Hanako has had her truancy practically ignored. There's definitely something going on here. We make our way to our seats, and I notice that Misha and Shizune are both missing as well. I wonder if it is some form of informal agreement with the staff, or if it's a perk afforded to the unique students of this school. Trying to make as little disturbance as I can, I extract the relevant textbooks from my bag and start catching up. The class goes on quietly. The teacher seems like an okay person despite the weird first impression I got, and the material is relatively interesting. However, the way he teaches is really bizarre. It's as if he expects that everyone is a natural genius. When the final bell sounds, I realize that there's a lot of time left in the day, and I'm left wondering what to do. It's odd. At the hospital, I had 24 hours a day of free time, but here, filling the considerably shorter hours feels difficult. Everyone else leaves, and I'm left alone with the teacher. Mutoi is examining the assignment sheets we were working on earlier, marking them with a red ball pen. Raising his eyes from his papers briefly, he notices me and furrows his brow. What is it, Nakai? I jump at him addressing me, but I guess it's natural to spark some conversation since there is nobody else around. Nothing. Just thinking about what I do after school. The teacher slowly puts the cap on the pen he is holding and arranges his papers into a stack, clacking it against the desk twice. He seems very methodical, and for a brief moment I'm reminded of Shizune, The teacher is much more unhurried and relaxed, much more routined. You have no plans? No, I considered joining a club, but I don't know what kind of club would interest me. Go observe a meeting of someone else's club. Might pique your interest. I guess. But I don't know how to continue from there. Mutoy looks at me in a way that makes me quickly want to take the words back to avoid a conversation. But I can't, so I have to forge ahead. I just don't know how to deal with people. I mean, the other students. I'm talking to people and everything, so it's not that I'd be isolated or anything. I just don't know what to think about the disabilities. It's like, it feels that I'm being impolite if I pay attention to them, and it's weird to ignore them. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. The teacher scratches his cheek absent-mindedly, looking very unresponsive. These things are only an issue if you make them one. I have to get into my deeper register for his voice, but I can't do it without yawning. You can talk to someone without... You can talk normally with someone, even if they are blind or something. Try to look behind the superficial. There's not a single student here who isn't just a normal kid behind whatever they might seem at first glance. He says the same thing as Yuko did. I know that they're right, but it's hard. How can you not consider, for example, Shizune's deafness? Oh, my cables are such a mess. And the only way to communicate with her is to talk through Misha. Or Hanako. It's not like you can ignore her face. But I'm interrupted by the door of the classroom suddenly slamming open. Teacher! Misha crashes in, hand straight in an enthusiastic greeting, her voice loud and lively enough to wake the dead from their graves. She starts toward the teacher with her bouncing step, hands energetically swinging with the swinging with the rhythm. Mutoy, visibly dismayed at the interruption, and Misha in general, slumps in his chair. Mikado. Misha stops in her tracks and looks around cluelessly, as if she's sensing from his tone that something's wrong, but has no idea what. Yes? We have talked about volume control before. Yes? But she doesn't lower her voice at all, and the teacher just rubs his eyes. So, what is it? We need help! God damn it. We're running out of supplies for the festival stands. This is a distress. She waves a pink slip of paper she's holding around. So, go get more supplies from the art room. What's the problem with that? Plywood. Plywood is always the problem. Last time we wanted more, there was only a little, but that time we just took it all and went with that. Now there's like none left, so do you know there is some? I don't understand. How would I know? Shi-chan, the president thought that a teacher would know if there's plywood. Was she wrong? Mutoy looks like he is in great pain, frowning with his entire essence, and Misha doesn't get it at all. Looking at the two of them communicate is terrible, like looking at a man being tortured by drilling his skull open while blasting pop music at full volume at the same time. I'm afraid I have no idea if there's any plywood in the school, let alone where it would be if there was any. Aw, what should I do? Perhaps try to find Mr. Nomiya? I'm quite sure he would know where to find everything you need. You'd have to pry them from his cold, dead hands, but that's a different matter. I don't have time! We're so busy! She holds her head with both of her hands, looking as despairing as it's possible for a person like her. Without even noticing, she crumples the note she's holding against her hair. I shouldn't even be fetching these things. There's so much to do, and we're falling behind the schedule. Mutoy looks at her gravely, then suddenly smiles. Smiling doesn't really fit his face. I think it'd be better if he didn't. I wonder if you could get some temporary help. What? Every time I do his voice, I yawn. He switches to staring at me focusly, with a hard expression, as if trying to say, go make some friends. I guess I can give you a hand. You can? Thanks, Hee-chan. You really are nice. She pauses, does a double take, and then points at me with her finger, yelping ah and looking very puzzled. Come to think of it, what's Hee-chan doing here? Class is over. You should be having fun. We just had a little chat. Oh no, it's not detention, is it? Are you in trouble, Hee-chan? No, I'm not. Is Hee-chan in trouble, teacher? No, he's not. Mutoi sighs deeply, and I feel that I have to help Misha to get her off the teacher's back. So, what do you need? Here's a list. I can try to find the plywood from somewhere if there's none in the art room. She offers me the note she's holding. I take it, hesitating a bit. I said I'd help you, but this has no implications on whether I'm joining the council or not. Aww. Still, thanks, Hee-chan. Try to be quick. We are in a stall building streak right now. We must hurry, hurry, hurry. She bounces out of the classroom, leaving me and the teacher looking at each other with something that feels like a silent agreement. Well, there you have it, Nakai. You have something to do now. Please don't sound so smug. Looking at the list with a number of items ranging from paint to plywood, all written with small, neat handwriting that is undoubtedly Shizune's, I heave a sigh. I'll be going, then. Waving the long list limply at the teacher, I exit to the hallway. The classroom closest to ours are designated belonging to classes 3-1 and 3-2 on the right side, and 3-4 on the left side, each door looking exactly the same. Further down the corridor still, with identical doors, are rooms that I didn't think were used for classes. I guess the art room is not a classroom as such. I carefully push open the furthest door and peek in. It's a classroom, but it seems rather badly kept or not in use. Am I in the right place? Desks and chairs are all around the room, a thin layer of dust settled on them. There are some easels in the corner, so at least this looks like the right place. The room is flushed in sunlight from the big windows, shadows creeping all over the desks. Oh my god. Oh, God again. Specks of dust are dancing in the stagnant air, making the beams of light almost visible. Jokingly, I call into the empty room. Anybody home? Something catches my eye and I stop mid-sentence. I didn't point it out the first time. This is my second favorite track in the game. It's called Parody. It's my second favorite track in this entire game. Sitting on a desk is a short-haired girl, curiously wearing a boy's uniform, with a fork between her toes, a morsel of food stuck firmly on the end. This odd way of dining seems to be caused by her apparent lack of hands, but her presence here is what takes me aback even more. How did I miss her before? She's sitting in a corner very still, but I still somehow took her as part of the furnishing, or a statue at first glance. I'm not being too observant today as a whole. The girl seems to be frozen in place, staring at me with her huge eyes like a rabbit in headlights. She's staring at me, her mouth wide open, ready to accept the fork. I'm staring at her, my mouth wide open, suddenly remembering I didn't finish my sentence and trying to think if I should. This weird stalemate keeps us both stunned into silence, punctuated only by the wall talk ticking rhythmically. Hello. The girl stuffs the forkful in her mouth and is now staring at me expectantly while chewing. This is a bit awkward. Hello. I was told to pick up some supplies from here, for some festival stalls, I think. I didn't think there would be someone here. There isn't. That's why I came here, too. She picks up another forkful. Doesn't that mean you're here, then? She raises her eyebrows as to suspecting my observation was false. You are pretty observant. I guess it does. But who are you? This girl is pretty straightforward, isn't she? I'm Nakai. Hiseo Nakai. I just transferred in on Monday. I'm Rin. Tezuka Rin. Rin Tezuka. I won't shake hands with you, but at least we know who we are now. That's very nice. Her deadpan manner of talking makes it hard to determine whether she's joking about shaking hands or not. It kind of bothers me. Joking about these matters doesn't feel appropriate at all. Well, I'm trying to figure out what's appropriate and whether this girl is. She seems to have lost interest in me and is now gazing yearningly back at her food. Can I continue my lunch? If you don't mind me, I won't mind you. If you need to get your stuff, the supplies are at the back. Go right ahead. But lunch? School's already over for the day. What word do you use then? There is no word for a meal you eat after lunch, but before dinner, right? It bothers me very much too, but I don't really know what I should say. I don't think you're supposed to eat a meal between lunch and dinner to begin with. But I'm hungry now, and my delicious box lunch would go to waste otherwise. I have curry. It's very delicious. With much decisiveness, Rin once again picks up her fork between her toes, and with at least as much impoliteness, she points it straight at me. So, Nikai, what brings you to this place? Like I said, I was told to look for these things. No, the school. From outside you look fine. Is your problem inside? I come to a full stop, opening my mouth but not getting a word out. I can guess. I'm good at guessing. Better than most people. Rin cuts me off before I can answer a question, or skirt around it somehow. I don't know which I would have done. I froze in front of this issue again. I haven't even told anyone here about my condition. Maybe it's only because it hasn't really come up. I do get the feeling that not making issues of this is a part of the school code here, or the social code here, as the teacher said. I wonder if the people here could relate. Probably not any better than any normal person could. I can't relate to Shizune's circumstances, or Lilly's either. Naturally, while I go through this in my head, Rin keeps considering what my condition could be, with an overly contemplative look on her face. She puts her fork between her lips and leans back, looking at the ceiling as if the answer was written up there. A beam of light illuminates her face from the window side, creating a mask of dark shadow on the other side. I don't think it's anything in your head. And something in your guts would be boringly ordinary, like this lunch of mine, and less delicious. The problem must be in your pants. This messed up Sherlock Holmes kind of statement, and the sheer lack of tact it was delivered with, catches me completely off guard. I think I might have reeled back even physically, as Rin's eyes widen in revelation and astonishment. So I was right. There's something wrong with your tackle, isn't there? Still partially in shock, but recognizing the need to reply something, I spit out the first thing that I can think of. No, nothing like that. I have a heart problem, arrhythmia. I said it. More like blurted it out, but I said it. The girl in front of me purses her lips together and glowers at me, looking very disappointed. How boring. Trouble in the pants would have been much more scandalous. What's with this reaction? I'm sorry to let you down. I forgive you. I collect people, and a person with, that kind of problem would have been really great. Collect people? People with different problems. Huh, so you just, go around asking people what's wrong with them? Pretty much. I see. With little left to say, Rin resumes her lunch, and the conversation dies away, but I keep thinking about what was said. It's the first time I told anyone else about my condition. All the other people have either known about it already, or heard about it from someone else. Or didn't need to know about it, like every other student here so far. Should I have told it as a natural part of introductions? Is it expected of me? Hi, I'm Hiseo. I have a very serious heart condition. Is that how I'm supposed to go around introducing myself from now on? As if our disabilities would define us. What a disgusting thought. Or maybe this Tezuka girl just has an unnatural interest in such things. As I walk to the back of the room to pick up the items on Misha's list, a chance opens to study Rin from the corner of my eye. Her hair is a burnt auburn, almost orange, and cropped short. Long hair would probably be impossible with no arms. The boy's uniform and the lack of arms makes her look very thin, almost scrawny. She's not particularly pretty, except for her murky green eyes, which flicker restlessly from below her short bangs, even when she eats. The distance and the shadows make it seem like they don't reflect sunlight at all, but instead absorb all of it within them like deep wells. She moves her feet almost as deftly as a normal person would use their arms. However, I can see how this sight would discomfort people, especially while eating. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, at least. I hesitate to think about the word unnatural, but it's too late now, isn't it? I keep searching the cabins and shelves for Misha's things, but after some time passes, the silence grows too uncomfortable, so I try to force some conversation out of this strange girl. So, do you always eat alone, and this late? Or do you get the occasional visitor? Visitors. Maybe you are my first occasional visitor. But I don't always eat alone either. Sometimes I eat with a certain person on the roof, if she's not horsing around. Horsing? She likes to do sports. Oh. And that's all I can think of to say. Both of us fall silent again as Rin forks the last bites of her meal to her mouth. I look down at my haul and double-check it with Misha's list. It seems I have everything except plywood. So I think I have all the things now. That's very nice for you. Don't feel obliged to stay. I was about to take a nap anyway. You need to do whatever you are going to do with that stuff anyway, right? Or perhaps you like to watch girls sleeping? I'm not sure what to make of this, but Rin looks serious. Even if I did, I think I have to be going. I'll catch you around, Tezuka. You can call me Rin. I feel that our relationship is at this point good enough to warrant this much. I was already turning to make my exit, but she draws me back in. Fine, then I'm Hiseo. Then you are. Rin looks at me hard in the eyes, but that intimidating feeling you get when someone stares at you isn't there. It's like she's actually not looking at me at all. She blinks a couple of times, and I can't figure out why a pause like this just popped between us out of nowhere. See you later, Hiseo. There's something like a tiny smile there in her face, maybe. I quietly back out of the room. As I shut the door in front of my face, I whisper to myself, what an intriguing person. From inside, I hear a muffled sing-song voice. I heard that. What did she hear? I jump at the sudden appearance of Misha, who I had not heard approaching despite the completely empty hallway. Somehow, she'd gotten to jumping distance of me without making a sound. Creepy. It briefly reminds me of Kenji's nutty theory about a global feminist conspiracy, but I push that thought aside. Shizune, standing slightly behind Misha, looks aloof, as she couldn't have heard the remark that drew Misha's attention, but Misha is visibly excited. No, wait, more importantly, who's in there? There's no club meetings today. She tries to curiously peek past me, even though the door prevents her from seeing anyway. What are you doing here? Oh my god. You took so long that we had to come check what's wrong. That's no good, Hee-chan. She wags her finger at me scoldingly. I found plywood, but everything else is still missing because you are tardy. Oh, sorry. I got the things here. I was just gonna bring them. I think you were up to some mischief, Hee-chan. Who is in there with you, I wonder? Misha signs something quickly to Shizune, pointing at her own ear a couple of times. Shizune immediately pushes away past me and opens the door into the classroom I just left. I can only imagine the shock she's experiencing. With Shizune's diligence and attitude, the insolence of daring to deface school property by sleeping on top of it must be too much to bear. And indeed, she stares at Rin, frozen in place apart from the slight but noticeable trembling of her shoulders. From suppressed rage, I'm sure. Instead of blowing up, Shizune just takes a few deep breaths, adjusts her glasses, and slams the door shut, turning to sign furiously at Misha. Maybe she did blow up, but I can't understand it. She shoots a very loaded stare at me too, as if it was somehow my fault that Rin is sleeping on one of the tables. I hope she's not getting any funny ideas about the reason of my tardiness. Hello. Rin's voice comes from the other side of the door, and it takes a few eye blinks to realize she might have trouble opening it. I open the door to find Rin directly behind it, looking at us with a half-interested, half-sleepy face. Hello. Miss Tezuka, what do you think you were doing? You are absolutely not permitted to use school property for such disgraceful activity. It sure is suddenly very crowded in here. I didn't know I was this popular. It's hard to say whether she's happy or unhappy about this turn of events. At any rate, she ignores Shizune and Misha's scoldings, so they have no choice but to drop the issue. Shizune taps Misha's shoulders, points at Rin, and makes some quick signs. Popularity aside, please don't do that anymore. Anyway, how is your project going? Will it be done for the festival? Rin looks at them blankly, apparently at ease under the pressure Shizune's cold stare is putting on her. I keep wondering about that myself, too. And we'll think about it harder. As Misha signs a reply to Shizune, her face turns into an unsatisfied frown. Miss Tezuka, please try to take this seriously. It'll be a disaster if the wall looks like someone threw up their lunch onto it. Rin nods assertively. We'll think more seriously. Misha actually giggles at that, but Shizune doesn't, not even after translation. She just shakes her head, takes the materials from me, and takes off with Misha in tow. Rin frowns thoughtfully as she looks after the retreating student council duo. How rude. It's true, though. I must finish my project before the weekend. There will be dire consequences if I don't. The end of the world as we know it. Like weekends usually are, but more dire. Much more dire. Maybe I'll postpone my nap to unforeseen future. I'm about to ask what project she has and what are these apocalyptic consequences, but she walks back into the art classroom. Since you have nothing to do, would you give me a hand? This paint can does not fit in my bag, but I need it. She kicks lightly at a huge can of paint that's lying on the floor next to the table she was sitting on and sleeping on. It lets out a dull clang. Being the gentleman I am, I naturally pick it up. Heavy. Yeah, sure. Where do you need to take it? Away. And with that, she takes off to the hallway, me and the paint can following, since there's little choice for either of us. The hallway is quiet and empty now, with Shizune and Misha gone, so we too leave towards the stairwell at the other end. Every 10 or 15 or 20 steps, I have to change the can from one hand to the another, because the thin handle cuts into my palms. At least it keeps my arms from tiring too fast. Rin strolls on beside me with an uneven pace that I have trouble matching, or maybe I am walking weird because of the extra weight. It seems one of us is constantly walking too slow or too fast, and I can't figure out which. 2 flights of stairs below, trouble appears in the form of the head nurse and his fox-like grin. Ah, Mr. Nekai, what a happy coincidence. Tezuka, too, of course. He nods courteously to Rin, who does not acknowledge him back, then turns to me because obviously it's me who he had some business with. There is something I forgot to mention on Monday. I nod and wait impassively, because I can't even begin to guess what he forgot. The feeling of the handle delving deeper into my skin doesn't make me feel enthusiastic about this interruption either. It's about your medications. Since you haven't been that long on your current medications, there might be some unaffected side effects, which might require adjusting dosages or even changing to another kind of medication. So we will do a few tests regularly, but what I want is for you to keep an eye on everything in your condition that feels off, if you get what I mean. Nausea, headache, anything, and come see me if something happens. Alright. So, how are you? Everything fine? I give up and drop the can to the floor before answering him. Apparently this takes longer than my biceps can handle. I'm about to say something generic as an answer, but then I realize how often I've done that lately. Other people have asked me that too. Teachers and students here, my parents, visitors, nurses, doctors at the hospital. Everyone seems to be concerned about that. It's natural for a hospital, not so much for a school. Except this school. This is a small school, and both the student base and the faculty seem to be very tightly knit. At least that's the feeling I'm getting. And this is not the kind of school that gets transfer students too often. The thought sends shivers up my spine, but I give a generic answer anyway. That's great. Also, one other thing. My sources tell me that you have been at neither the school track nor even the pool. So I'd like to know if you've taken up exercising as I asked. Of course I haven't, but his way of inquiring gives me the feeling that I should have been running my ass off on the track since the very first day. You have people spying on me? Not as such, I just happen to know a few people. But that's not the issue here, so don't try to slip out of it. Well, I was actually just doing some improvised weightlifting as an exercise. I pick up and lift the can up and down a few times, like some sad imitation of a bodybuilder, even though it's weighing down on my arms painfully. The stupid grin disappears from his face for a second, and comes back like it was never gone. Tezuka, would you give us a second? The nurse grabs me by the shoulder without waiting for Rin's permission, which he didn't need in the first place, and drags me aside. When I told you to exercise, I wasn't joking. I understand that you are still on your first week and all, but please don't ignore the importance of this. The reason I'm coming down this hard on you is that habits are not easy to form. The more you slip and postpone, the harder it'll be. It's the same with everything, like dieting. Can you promise me to be more serious about this from now on? I'll never guess we're going to answer yes again. Yeah, I promise. Definitely. He studies me for a moment, then shrugs, smiling again. Okay, that's more like it. If you go to the school track tomorrow morning, you'll meet my spy, who probably has no qualms offering consultation to you if you want to jog a bit. Consultation? See you around. He leaves with a wave of his hand and no answer, and I walk to Rin, who has been waiting, idly leaning against the hallway wall and staring at the pale lighting fixtures in the ceiling. Even when I approach, she doesn't move her eyes off them. Are you getting medications for your heart thingy? Were you listening? It comes up more accusatory than I intended, accidentally lashing out on her. But even so, I don't really want to start talking about it. I just met her. I don't know her. It's not her business. The nurse seems to be happily ignorant about confidentiality, too, talking about that kind of thing in public. But it's not Rin's fault, is it? I look up at her, suddenly feeling a bit guilty, but Rin is just staring past my shoulder quizzically, her head tilted like a bird's. Sigh. I don't know why this is so hard for me. It feels like there's some inexplicable lock that prevents me from being more upfront about this. Yeah, they're for my heart. Will they make you better? No, not really. They just make me a little less worse. Rin keeps looking at me for a while longer, and she neither says anything further, nor displays any kind of emotion I could discern. I'm thankful that she doesn't. I think I'm still not quite used to all this. At the hospital it was easy, but I still haven't sorted my feelings out about having to live a normal life with this disability. We leave the main building, and Rin leads us onward towards the dorm. We stop at the small patch of greenery in front of the dorm building. The dorm is built on slightly elevated ground, with a wall and a few trees that everyone has to circle around every time they come or go. It's probably the only inconvenient design in the school. The entire wall, made up of the same kind of bricks as the building itself, has been covered with some sort of painting. Most of it is still mere sketches, quick lines drawn with black and white against the gray plastering that covers almost the entire length of the wall, but some places look a bit more finished. There are human faces and legs and hands. I can't quite say what the painting as a whole might portray. Stacks of what seem to be paint cans are arranged in piles on the ground beside the wall. See, the left side is hardly off the ground yet. It's because I couldn't get in the mood yesterday, so I gave up and went to meditate instead. Then it was suddenly morning. I have to work on it. But the guys from art class are helping with the negative spaces and base surfaces whenever, which is a problem. It's easier to paint big areas, if there are a lot of people, with hands. The reach is better, and it's faster, too. She goes on a tangent of a tangent, waving a little with her arm, or whatever there actually is, to demonstrate even though I got the point already. The white cotton of her sleeves flaps around, and it makes me think it could look sadder than it does. But it makes me feel out of place, almost every tangible reminder of the student base's special properties has in the past few days. This girl doesn't notice my dreary feelings, of course, or the fact that she lost me a while ago already, and just keeps on blabbering. God, I want to do a better voice for Rin. So, that's why I'm trying to figure out if there's something I need to figure out, and then figure that out before it's too late and all hope is lost. Why would the hope be lost? Because paint has to be painted, then it has to dry, and then it has to be painted over with another kind of paint. It takes time. She finally stops, apparently thinking she has made some kind of statement that makes sense. I think it's best to start from the top. So this is your project? You did this? Yes. Yes. All of it? Yes. Nice, but I stumble with my words, suddenly feeling like I've walked straight into the minefield of political incorrectness. It's okay, you can say it. I probably won't get mad. I blush really hard. I don't really know what would be the right thing to say, if any. It feels that I'm way more sensitive than Rin is, though. This is really awkward. Don't you want to ask? How do you paint without hands? See, I'm an easy person to talk to, right? With my feet. I almost guessed that already, but isn't that hard to do? You're good at guessing. Anyway, I don't think it is, but maybe I'm used to it by now. I can't get my mind around the fact that she could be an artist, but seeing how adept she was at using her feet to eat, I figure painting might not be a problem either. Neither of us has anything more to add to the subject. The afternoon light works pretty well. I was afraid it would look too flat, but it's not like that after all. Holy shit, what is my English speaking? I was afraid it would look too flat, but it's not like that after all. I think it's actually pretty interesting. I wanted to see what it looks like in dim light. Do you think it's flat? Well, paintings tend to be flat. Not like that flat. You know, flat. Like some people are. No substance, no meat. Where there should be some. I know a few girls who... Okay, I get it. But I couldn't really tell. I'm not that good with art. I can't name many artist or artistic terms. So I don't really have anything to say. Rin shrugs her shoulders at that, saying suit yourself without saying it, and looks up at the sky as if trying to look for something up there. I didn't think I'd get any actual work done, but if you give me a hand with the paints, I could get a little before it's too dark. I wanted to get a halogen lamp like the ones they have at the sports track, but there aren't any. Rin sure is quick to recruit my help, as was Shizune. It really makes me feel that the festival is such a big project that every pair of hands is needed. Why not? I'm not really sure if I can be of any help, though. It's just mixing some paints. You can do that. Probably. Do you have motor control problems? Like, you know, those people who have some? Cerebral palsy, maybe? Not that I know of. I get it. Heart thingy has nothing to do with that. She gives me a sly look for no reason. No, it doesn't. Let's do it, then. So she sits on an empty wooden box and very naturally picks up a wide brush between the toes of her bare right foot. I open a few of the cans and pour some of the contents into shallow bowls for mixing. The thick paints flow lazily from the can to the bowl, like syrup. I mix them, creating funny, hypnotic-looking swirl patterns that melt quickly into each other to form a new monotone hue. Rin sets to work every now and then asking me for a hand with something or the other. Finding different brushes is easy enough, but mixing the paints to the exact tone this girl is apparently seeing in her head is a frustrating ordeal. She wants precision down to the last milliliter before she is satisfied, but her instructions are obscure at best. Add half a splash of green. I crouch down to pick up the can of bright green. The other green. This green. I carefully pour some of the other green paint into the mixing bowl. No, that's almost a whole splash. More white. Is green a good color to add? No idea. You're the artist here. Hint of a smile appears in the corners of her mouth. Do you lack an opinion? No, it's just that I have no idea. It's okay, because I just got an idea. Add more white. With this exclamation, I pour a minuscule amount of white in the bowl and mix it. It looks slightly whiter. That's not good. It has to be like the color when you wake up, and you know that you saw the meaning of life in your dream, but can't remember it. Maybe it's yellow. Despite the impossibility of mixing a color like the change of seasons or any other nonsense that's being imposed on me, I find myself enjoying it more than I thought I would. Seeing a painting being born on the plastered wall feels like magic. I spend the moments I have between mixing paints crouching down on the paving and just looking at her work. It feels slightly intrusive at work, like breaking some imaginary intimacy, but Rin doesn't seem to mind the least bit. Maybe it's just in my head. Her entire presence emits a completely different air as she patiently works the details, adding layers of paint on top of other layers of paint, steadily moving her foot across the wall to add new shapes. When I manage to produce a passable mixture of paint, the rare smile on her face is oddly rewarding. Apart from the few words when discussing paint mixes, neither of us says a word for the longest time. Even those short discussions soon evolve into a shorthand, both of us developing and using weird impromptu code words for various paints and hues, as if there was some need to conserve words and breath and sound. We stay there late into the evening, until it becomes too dark to paint properly. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, save. We're already almost an hour in. The sound of an alarm pulls me out of a fitful slumber and into the unpleasant state of wakefulness. I linger under the blanket for a few minutes, gathering energy to rise up while making excuses as for why I had. Whew! Words are difficult. I linger under the blanket for a few minutes, gathering energy to rise up while making excuses for why I already haven't. Honestly, I wouldn't mind staying here all day. School is surprisingly exhausting after a long pause, and the culture shock still has not faded, I think. Still, despite getting an impression that skipping class is easy here, I don't think they're going to let me get away with that. Stop adding words. I don't think they're going to let me get away that easily. And the nurse is bound to keep breathing down my neck with the talk of exercising as well. So eventually I do rise up, swallow this morning's medication, and put on my old soccer clothing. Thanks to my condition, I was exempted from taking part in gym classes at Yamaku, so I didn't get issued with a gym outfit. I'd order some to cover such a contingency, but wearing my old soccer clothes is kind of nostalgic. I can't use them for that anymore, so maybe they can get a new life this way, a bit like me. After all, if I'm going to start taking care of myself, I can't afford to slack around. I'll start from the basics. Basics which include keeping the rest of my body in shape, along with what little I can do to strengthen my heart. Maybe then I can go back to something approaching a normal life, or at least something where I'm less likely to fall over dead at any minute. I'm surprised to discover that I'm not the only one present at the track. Not just that, but it's a face I've seen before. The prosthetic leg girl who bowled me over in the hallway yesterday is running on the track lithely, like a half-mechanical gazelle. What was her name again? It was a short one, but I can't remember. She seems to be running laps at a somewhat easy lop, her prosthetic legs clacking rhythmically on the hard track surface. I wonder what reason she has for running this early in the morning. Maybe it's something akin to mine, and the nurse is oppressing the poor girl to jog like he is oppressing me. I certainly wouldn't be here if it weren't for my health, and his prompting me to do so. Even with things being like they are, it's only because I wanted to get it out of the way early. The fact that I would be less likely to encounter someone who would witness my pitiful attempts to get in shape was merely a happy accident. I'd leave, but it seems that my former assailant noticed me on her last lap. She waves at me cheerfully and jogs over. Good morning. Your name is Hiseo, right? She grins, seemingly pleased that she'd remembered my name. You may not remember me. Emmy? I knocked you over in the hall yesterday. How could I forget such a blunt introduction? Emmy has the decency to look vaguely apologetic for a moment before giggling. Yeah, sorry about that. Again. Well, so long as you don't make a habit of it, I suppose I'll be fine. Great! I'm not sure if she realized I was joking. So, the spy consultant the nurse was talking about, is that actually you? That's right! Oh. I was expecting someone from the nursing staff, to be honest. What, are you saying I don't look like I could be a spy? No, this is more like a relief. I was afraid you would have someone to watch my every move. Unless you're here to do exactly that. No, I'm here for my own reasons. The nurse just asked me if I had seen a messy-haired transfer student who looks like he's kind of lost around the track. So why are you down here? Emily strikes a dramatic pose. Training. For what? Track. Ah, I see. You're on the track team, then. Emmy nods enthusiastically. Yep, I'm one of the better runners, too. And modest about it, too. Hey, you should join up. It's good exercise, you know. I think that much activity is probably out of the question for me. Nah, I'm not even sure that I really like running all that much. Plus, I'm just not into organized sports, you know. It's true. I never even really got that much into soccer. I mean, I'd run around with my friends and all, but that was really the only reason I ever played. It wasn't for the glory to be found on the field, that's for sure. Emmy seems to understand my meaning. I see. Not that into the whole organization thing. But now that you're here, I guess we're gonna run together, huh? What? Sure, I guess. Emmy seems pleased. Are you going to warm up? Real men don't warm up. Oh no, you should always warm up. Bad Hiseo. She scolds me enthusiastically, but then smiles and leans closer. I hate warming up too. She laughs suddenly. Heck, and I don't even have to stretch my legs. As to confirm her statement, she bounces up and down a couple times, giving a passing impression of standing on a pair of springs. Her leg blades seem to be quite elastic. Let's go! So we both take off around the track, and I can immediately see that she wasn't lying about being good at running. Stop hitting the goddamn right-click button. Emmy moves fluidly, throwing herself into the run with a sort of wild abandon. I find myself concentrating more on running properly. Hands spread, right? And something about hitting on the balls of your feet rather than the heels. I try to match my stride to Emmy's, but it's pretty difficult. Apparently I'm not very good at it. Maybe Emmy could help me with that sometime. I'm really not feeling up to more than a couple laps today, and slow to a walk pretty quickly. Emmy keeps running, and doesn't seem to notice I've stopped until she passes me a second time. She quickly skids to a halt, breathing steadily in contrast to my own, somewhat gasping demeanor. Finished already? I hang my head ruefully. Yeah. I'm not in very good shape right now. Emmy nods and then grins at me again. She seems to do a lot of smiling. Well, the important thing is you started, right? Next time, you'll just have to try to hold out longer, and then longer, and longer, and eventually you'll be great. I'll keep that in mind. But I think right now I'm going to get ready for class. Shouldn't you? Emmy shrugs unconcernedly. Nah, I've got plenty of time. I notice that she's not wearing a watch. Are you sure? Another careless shrug. Not really, but I've got to finish my routine. See you later, Hiseo. Yeah, see ya. I'm not sure whether this morning's experiment was a success or a failure, but I'll admit that I do feel slightly good about getting out there this morning. And like Emmy said, I just need to keep at it in order to get better, right? Practice makes perfect, or something like that. It's nice at least to feel like I've taken some semblance of control over my own health. I'll have to try to keep this up. I head back to the dorms to wash and change in my uniform, trying to resist the urge to take a really long and hot shower. I'm tired from all the running, so I just want to unwind, but I don't want to break my slowly building routine of getting to school before the morning rush. Oh god, this scene, I forgot about it. After taking a long shower anyway, I dry myself off and get out of the stall to put on my clothes. Out of nowhere, a shadow appears within the mist, looming and radiating malicious intent. It bursts through the fog. Sup? What are you doing here? What the hell? You scared me. What's your problem? I should be asking you that. I've been looking all over the place. I've been looking for you all over the place, man. What do you mean all over the place? I want to ask if he's been looking for me like that, stark naked, but hold my tongue back. I realize that I'm naked too and quickly hold up my shirt in front of me, but Kenji doesn't seem to notice a thing. His glasses are fogged up, but then why doesn't he wipe them off? Is his vision so bad it's like he's perpetually seeing through the fog? You know, your room and... yeah, that's it. Hey, I mean, I still had to get up, though. Whatever, it's not important. Can I borrow some money? He puts on an innocent face and looks away, trying very hard to look very casual. It doesn't work. He's as transparent as his window pane-sized glasses. Talking neutrally like this, wearing nothing, feels awkward. Actually, somehow it's even more awkward to be naked in front of someone when they can't even see me being naked, to say nothing of the fact that he's naked as well. I try to brush the feeling off, with little success. Money? Sure. Awesome. Wait, why do you need it? Can't you just give it to me because I had the goodwill not to run through your pockets while you were in the shower? I could have, but I exercised restraint. In the end, isn't the thought that counts? Come on, be a pal. This makes no sense. If it's the thought that counts, I should withhold payment, since his thoughts were so clearly impure and his intentions are probably even more sinister, since he can't tell me what they are. I say as much to him. I'm offended, man, but if that is your game, then fine. I guess I have no choice. I wanted to order a pizza. I already have most of the cost of the pizza. I need your help for the rest. I get some of that pizza too, right? No. Are you serious? Yeah, I would give you some, but you have class. You don't have time to eat a pizza. What about you? I'm not going to class. I have to wait for the pizza and pay the guy, and then eat it. It's not easy. You have to obtain the pizza stealthily. If you don't, everyone will see you, and the pizza, and they will ask for a slice. It's a hard world out there. Everyone wants a piece, then you're left pizzaless in an unforgiving world. It's happened before, that's how I know. Every day I plan my vengeance, so that when the people who wronged me order a pizza, I will be there, ever vigilant. Kenji strikes a dramatic pose, completely without irony. But yeah, I only need like 400 yen. Please? You're my only hope. I can't go outside and buy my own pizza, it's too far. I try not to go out unless it's absolutely necessary. Let me tell you what happened the last time I went out without carefully planning it out in advance. I was outside. I can't remember what I was doing. Something. Standing? Maybe wondering how I got out there. And then, out of nowhere, it happened. Like a flash of lightning, splitting the sky, like how you split a sandwich into 2 equal pieces to make it more manageable to hold and eat. A bird crapped on my head. It was the second most shocking moment of my life. What was the first? He ignores me and keeps going. I want to grab him and shake him. Is he just trying to keep momentum? I'll go with that, even if it's more likely he just didn't hear me. It was like the openings to some kind of anime show. You know how there's always a part where the main dude is fighting his rival, and they fly at each other and clash swords, and there's like big dramatic colored auras and zoom. It was like that, but with poo. Okay. So yeah, I need some money. Please? Don't leave me hanging, man. I only need like 1,000 yen. I thought it was 400. Okay. What? I'll pay you back, I swear. You better. That's what it means to borrow stuff. I don't know when I'll be able to pay you back. You have 1 week. Ah! Kenji winces and makes a noise like a dying cow. A particular disturbing fact given that his baton is conducting freely. You're not supposed to be so tight-assed about money between brothers in arms. Man. Men have it bad enough as it is. Did you know that male porn stars only make about half of what female porn stars make? That doesn't mean anything unless you're a porn star. So maybe I am a porn star. On the side, struggling to make ends meet as I fight the feminist agenda. And you can't even spot me your crumbs, you bastard. Nobody understands. Nobody. Wouldn't feminists be against pornography in the first place? This feminist agenda stuff again? This stuff is important. I can see you don't give a shit, but this is serious here. Feminists are a dangerous enemy, make no mistake. You take them lightly and you'll wake up in the morning with a knife in your back. Bam. Out of nowhere. How do you wake up in the morning if someone stabbed you in your sleep? Women are terrible at stabbing things. I thought you just said don't take them lightly. Well, I mean don't take them lightly for the big things. Individually, they're not a threat. If there was some kind of war, like a big war, with men on one side and the feminist forces on the others, it would be pretty ugly. And that day will come, when the feminists come out of their central top-secret worldwide feminist headquarters and say, "It's on now, motherfuckers!" You're being ridiculous. There's no big worldwide feminist headquarters building. Where would they even hide that? I mean, it'd have to be massive. You couldn't hide that on Earth. Someone would notice a big fortress with women only in it. Who said it was on Earth? I turn away from Kenji and start practicing frowning faces in a mirror so that I can figure out what kind of frown will best express my emotions. He can't see me from that distance anyway. Which unfortunately means he just keeps around ranting without any regard to sense or sensibility. Yeah, there is a war going on. A war not many know about, but it's a great one that will one day boil over and encompass all of the known world. Then we will have to pick sides. We will have to take a stand. In fact, it's happening right now. Imagine it, the bloody battlefield, a vicious conflict without end. I almost gave up when I thought this cause was silly, when I grew tired of the bleakness of our fight, when I mistook the time the power went out for a feminist raid and thought the end was near. But then I realized that if I gave up, it would be all over, and I was like, whoa, and knew I had to get serious, because I am the last sane man in an insane world. It's about duty. Must be a pretty crappy movement if it all hinges on one naked guy ranting in a bathroom at another naked guy. So can I have the money? He's blocking the way out. It's getting cold because I'm still naked, and I want to go to class. So I agree to spot him the money. Awesome, thanks dude. We should go bowling later on. Bowling? Yeah, it's the ultimate sport. There are almost no women bowlers either, making it also the manliest sport. Should I wear my pink bowling shirt with matching shoes or the pastel green with flower accents? There are bowling clothes? Maybe. Anyway, you'd better pay me back. I can pay you back in stuff, right? I don't have the time to ask him to elaborate on what that means. I don't know. I have to get to class. You're kind of in the way. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't want to hold you up, and I have some stuff to do myself. The time has come. The time for what? I just like saying that. Okay, now the time has really come. For what? I have to use the bathroom. Get out of it. I was just going to. What does that mean? It's a big bathroom. So? I have to be alone or I can't go. The pressure. Okay. What if someone else comes in? I'll think of something. I give him my practice frown and it looks silly reflected in his glasses. He either doesn't notice or doesn't see, anyway. So I get dressed and run back to my room, feeling as though an eternity has passed since I woke up. That is time I will never get back. I'll get him for this somehow. But right now, I have to get to class. I'm the first person in class today, although I think I'm a little too early. Then again, sitting alone here for 20 minutes sure beats having to suffer that time with Kenji. Alright, I actually need to get water. So I'll be back. Ja. Alright, I'm back. Turn my fan on too because it's getting way too hot. Alright. The combination of fatigue, frustration, and boredom starts making me feel very tired. I black out for a second, waking up when my head hits the surface of my desk. Rubbing my forehead, I realize this is as good a reason as any to stay up for now and stop coming to class so early later. Eventually, I hear a tapping noise outside in the hallway, and Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. She's not in this class, so she must have some other business. Maybe she's looking for Hanako. Lily stops at the door, looking hesitant as if she was a vampire who can't come in unless invited. I consider doing so because she looks rather lonesome standing there. She steps in on her own accord, though, after straightening her skirt and shirt collar, as if it was of importance to look prim when entering our classroom. "Excuse me." She calls into the quiet classroom with a probing, delicate voice. I realize the silence might unnerve her because of her blindness, so I break it. "Good morning, Lily." "Hiseo? Good morning. I didn't hear you come in." I wonder if she thinks it's suspicious I didn't say anything to her before. It's likely. If I were to tell too big a lie now, it would sink me. Well, I was already here, just asleep until now. "Oh, have you seen Hanako today, by any chance?" "No, she seems to come in just before the bell rings, or after that. Do you want me to tell her something for you?" "No, it's fine. It's strange, but I think we're the only two people in the school right now. I didn't hear anyone else on my way here." I shouldn't have gotten up so early today, I guess. "You're chastising yourself for doing something that other people should? Punctuality is a good thing. I think so, anyway. It's a very busy morning today. The festival is coming up soon, and today is the deadline for event registration, budget reports, and any other official paperwork. It could be that everyone is trying to complete the necessary forms at the last minute. Maybe that is why today is so quiet today." Good lord. Hi! Misha pops into the room with Shizune as if on cue, chatting with a loudness that makes Lily visibly flinch. "Hi, Hichan." "Hi." "Look, it's the class representative. Hello." Lily smiles, probably amused by Misha or Shizune's use of the word look. "Good morning." "Of course, you're not the representative of this class, right? Right?" "I'm not." Lily seems a little more guarded in her answers to Shizune than she was with me the other day. I guess they really don't get along at all. Then I realize that Lily might not actually know Shizune is present, and she's trying to detect whether or not she is, to know who she's talking to. For all she knows, she's talking to Misha, but knowing that she and Shizune are practically inseparable, she might expect Shizune being the one that actually talks. Damn, how complicated. I decided to help Lily out, for my own peace of mind more than anything else. "You're here early, Shizune." "You were here even earlier than us." Misha puffs out her cheeks angrily. Why is she getting angry? Does she feel emotions on Shizune's behalf too? It's not that weird, though, that Shizune didn't like my little comment. It's true, I was here earlier than them, so me saying something like that could definitely be misinterpreted as anything. Especially to Shizune, who doesn't have the benefit of hearing tone to gauge intent. Before I can start weighing whether or not I should apologize, Shizune has already moved on. "Class rep, it's a good thing you're here. We have to talk. The festival's coming up in 3 days, right? Every other class has already handed in their projected budget report for their events. Even the first years. Except you." "There is still time to hand it in, isn't there?" "Today! The deadline is today. You're certainly taking your time, aren't you? If I had it my way, I'd have had all the necessary paperwork days ago, but someone had to say, 'The deadline, please extend it.'" "Yes, that was me. Planning something on this scale is not a small task, and a week is too small a time frame to expect a whole class to work out such a complex issue completely." "Do you want to know what's harder than distributing the funds for one class's event? Handling the same matter for every class in the school and then some. The one who does that is me." Misha puts her hands on her hips and stands straight up. Wow, she really is getting into the role. Lily doesn't look like she's very amused, though. "Hey, Shizune, aren't you being a little too hard on her? There's still a whole day left." Please, Hisao, it's all right. Lilly seems happy I'm taking her side, but a bit conflicted that I might not think she can take care of herself. If this is about the budget, then I'm disappointed you think I have forgotten about it. I understand how important it is. Then, can I have it, please? Suzune, she might not have it on her at this exact second. It's not here right now. I asked 2 students to take care of it for me. Students from my class. She emphasized the last sentence, much to my surprise. She knows about Shizune and Misha's efforts to rope me into the student council? I guess word must have gotten around, so now she's using me as ammo against Shizune. This just keeps getting better and better. It was your responsibility. A budget report isn't something you should just be delegating away. As a class rep, it's your job to be on top of things. This kind of disregard for proper procedure is really just terrible. They completed it, being capable of doing so, but the students have been sick recently, so they could not come to school and give it back to me. If you want, I will apologize on their behalf for getting sick. Okay. Although Misha misses Lilly's little jab entirely, Shizune doesn't, and she seems torn between being offended by Lilly's daring and jumping for joy at the prospect of a challenge. Lilly, don't they live here at the school? That's a 5-minute walk, you know. What could they possibly have that prevents them from taking 5 minutes out of their busy lives to drop off something that will affect the enjoyment of their entire class? Lilly opens her mouth to say something, but Shizune closes the gap between them and starts signing furiously, waving her hands around like an orchestra conductor. Misha tries her best to convey the same passion, but can't seem to lose her normal cheerful tone. The result is interesting and somewhat surreal. And what's with that attitude? I said that it's not something you should be delegating away. Are you the class representative or aren't you? Tell me the names of those 2 students. They should have your job if you can't even handle something this simple yourself. One form isn't the full extent of what I am supposed to take care of. Lilly's tone is growing slightly impatient, but she's doing a good job of not letting Shizune see how unsettled she's becoming. She's playing her cards close to her chest. Shizune, on the other hand, wraps her fingers cheerfully around the edge of her glasses, knowing Lilly can neither hear nor see how excited she is. Of course, you do so much, class rep. It must be so difficult being you. Lilly tightens her lips at Misha's words, clearly understanding the intent behind them, even though Misha delivers them without even a hint of sarcasm which they're meant to have. Shizune and Lilly don't like each other, that much is clear, but this seems a little much. It seems like Lilly has had enough and is ready to push back. I was actually just discussing the budget report before you came by. You must be very talented to have finished all your student council duties so quickly that you can track me down to make sure I don't forget my own. Are you accusing me of slacking off? It seems like you're confusing me with yourself. I don't think so. That would be a very difficult thing for me to do, comparing myself to you. You're right. The difference between us is like heaven and hell. And it's not hard to guess which one you might represent. The air between them ripples with the heat of their enmity. Well, not really. They can't disguise it anymore, though. Even Misha looks like she's beginning to understand the real nature of this conversation. Hee-chan, don't you slack off either. What are you talking about? Aren't you taking part in the festival, Hee-chan? You are, aren't you? Then, I hope you're going to do a lot more to make sure it goes smoothly than this person. I don't understand why Shizune is suddenly getting mad at me. Hey, I'm the new guy, remember? It's not like I could have done much, even if I wanted. That's right, you shouldn't expect a transfer student to jump right into it on his first week. Lilly taking my side feels oddly comforting, so I decide to back her up too. Yeah, you're being unreasonable with us both. Excuses, excuses. Miss Class Reps had plenty of time to deal with the report. We've repeatedly offered you a position to help with the student council work, but you refuse to commit yourself to making the festival a success. Yeah, but as I said back then, I'm not sure if... I don't have time for this right now. No matter what I do, it'll mean being drawn into a confrontation with Shizune, and that's what she wants. Whatever, forget it. I turned my back at them. Lily, class is going to be starting soon, so we can talk more later. I'll tell Hanako you were looking for her. I can feel Shizune freezing. Maybe this is the first time she's ever been ignored in such a blunt manner. Thank you, Hiseo. I'll leave now, then. She gives me the sweetest smile I've seen all week, and turns on her heels to make her exit. As soon as Lily walks out the door, I suddenly start feeling reluctant about turning to face Shizune. I can feel her eyes burning into my back, and can't bring myself to look at her. She must be furious. I keep expecting Misha to say something to alleviate the tension, but it really is wanting too much. In the end, I go back to my seat and listen to the sound of Shizune's footsteps as she marches out of the room. She doesn't return until a few minutes before class. Hanako doesn't come to the morning class at all, leaving her seat looking empty and lonely in the back of the classroom. I have to tell her that Lily was looking for her if I see her later. After the events of this morning, class is pretty boring in comparison. I turn the pages of my textbook lazily. I have a bit of catching up to do, despite trying to keep up with my studies at the hospital, but I'm not feeling that enthusiastic about it. The clock at the front of the room sounds unbearably loud. The teacher hasn't said anything in over 7 minutes, instead opting to cover the board in rows and rows of equations taken directly from the book. The rhythmic clashing of chalk on blackboard seems to synchronize perfectly with the ticking of the clock. I start to copy down the equations just to pass the time, even though they're right there in the textbook. When the bell rings, I'm not in a hurry because I have nothing to do, so I stay for a while, reviewing what we covered in class today. I prefer to leave last anyway, so I don't have to deal with crowding in the hallways. I notice Shizune and Misha have also stayed behind, talking to someone from another class. Shizune is signing so fast that her hands make noises like swords cutting through the air. Maybe there is a pent-up anger in there. Misha is trying desperately to keep up, but it's clear she can barely manage to even understand her. I put my head down. Whatever they're discussing, it looks like serious business. Shizune signs to the point where her wrists crackle, and Misha struggles to spit it out in word form. Sometimes she trips over herself like she's dealing with tongue twisters, and then on top of that she has to sign back anything the other girl says. Seems like a rough job. Misha looks tired, like she's about to faint. Luckily for her, their business is soon finished, and the girls sit down on their seats again. I'm so tired. She's hanging her head limply on her desk, looking exhausted. I use the opportunity to reconcile with Shizune a bit, without getting roped into the student council thing again, though I suspect that door is now closed for me. Festival preparations must be tough for you. Indeed, the people in this school seem to be taking the festival very seriously. Whenever I see people idling around before and after classes, they're always talking about their plans for it. It's kind of neat to see everyone being so enthusiastic about it. I'm probably the only one who doesn't have something to do. Shizune scoffs at me first, as if trying to decide whether to ignore or sneer at me. But in the end, she starts signing without doing either. Misha perks up, looking at her hands with slightly unfocused eyes. She signs with harsh, heavy, dramatic strokes. Misha translates her signings into speech for me. It's so well, it's almost like Shizune is actually speaking, transmitting her thoughts directly through Misha. She must have practiced it vigorously. Well, of course, we're in the student council, so we're pretty busy. It's an important duty of ours to ensure the success of the festival with all our strength. We would shame ourselves in front of the past student council generations if the festival were to fail. That's why there must be no flaws. No, I think that was encumbrances? No, nothing that might make the festival short of perfect. Shizune's passionate speech and Misha's enacting are really oddly fitting of them. Oh, hello. I look over my shoulder and see Hanako peering timidly into the classroom, most of her body hidden behind the door. Hey, playing delinquent again? Hanako blushes hard at Misha's straightforward jab, even if it was only in jest. Shizune stares at her probingly, causing Hanako to look down and start backing away to the point where only her fingers can be seen wrapped nervously around the edge of the door. Maybe she's showing her dislike of Hanako by association of her dislike of Lilly. It appears so, and Hanako probably knows it as well. What is it, Hanako? Has Lilly been here? Sorry, haven't seen Satoi. She came by in the morning, though. Hanako keeps looking uneasily at Shizune, who stares back at her with her usual studying gaze. What's she trying to do? Of course Shizune isn't going to look away. She is intimidating enough as it is, so I can only imagine how terrified Hanako would be. It's a little uncomfortable, watching Hanako's reaction to Shizune's normal behavior. This is what happens when two people of two different extremes meet, it seems. Do you know where she is? If she has any sense in her head, she's in her classroom, working on their festival project. But who knows where that woman is loitering at? You need to find her? She was looking for you in the morning, but I guess you've missed each other. She waits a little without answering the simple question, looking awfully like she's not sure if it's proper to answer such a question. Yeah. I can come with you, if it's okay. Hanako nods fractionally, still on guard, her shoulders stiff like wood. I get the feeling that she might be comfortable by herself after all, but it's too late to back off now. She has this really troubled expression she seems to wear almost constantly, while it makes me constantly be on guard myself. I wonder why. I kind of understand why she always seems to be so wary, or maybe more like why there could be a person like her. But I still have no idea how I should act around such a person. It's dinner time soon. Were you planning to eat with Lilly? She nods slightly. She must have been trying to get in the cafeteria. But there's something of a dinner crowd, just like the cafeteria is crowded during lunch. It's not as bad because dinner time is longer than lunch hour, but I can understand why Hanako could be discouraged from going in. I pick up my bag and we take our leave. Hanako skips a little to meet my initial pace, so I slow down to match her speed. It doesn't take long for us to be comfortable at walking. It doesn't take long for us to be walking at a comfortable pace down the hallway. It almost feels like we're going for a stroll together, something I can't say I've really done before with a girl. Hanako doesn't seem to be thinking the same thing, though. Even though we're walking at the same pace, she never comes within arm's reach of me. I guess she's still a little uncomfortable around me. Given how shy she is, there doesn't seem to be much helping it, at least for now. By the time we arrive at the cafeteria, there's not much of a crowd there, but Lilly is nowhere to be seen. Hanako's head sinks even lower than usual. Have you looked somewhere else already? Just at the library. I was reading. She does spend the classes she skips at the library. Ah, so not exactly a thorough search then. Well, if I had to guess, she'd be in her own class, like Shizune said, right? Right. With the slightest of nods, Hanako agrees with my reasoning. God, she's being so awkward. It's like I need double-layered silk gloves with padding to even begin interacting with her. Some small talk might help her become a bit more used to me. It isn't hard to tell that the silence between us is hovering on the edge of both our minds. So you and Lilly usually hang out together after class, right? Yes. I'm not quite sure what I expected from her answer, nor why I even asked the question. That much was rather obvious, after all. She doesn't seem like the type to cultivate a social circle, either, so I suspect that Lilly may well be her only friend. Must be a pain being in different classes, I'm guessing. She gives a sharp, almost reflexive nod. Compared to Lily's careful thought about her actions and speech, Hanako hastens to make her answers as prompt and short as possible. Lilly comes by the classroom, though, even when she's busy. She gives a small smile as she says it, evidently appreciating the fact that Lilly goes out of her way to help her. It's pretty cute, really. There isn't any need to say more. Both of us content that the discussions reach an end. As we ascend the stairs back to the lobby, we are met by a group of students heading downstairs like a school of fish moving from one feeding area to another. They seem to be keeping mostly to themselves. Before I can notice her doing so, Hanako's moved around behind me. Hey, are you alright? Just keep going. The students pass us without as much as a second glance, and Hanako takes up position to my side again as we enter the building, her momentary reprieve from her anxiety all but snatched away. Even as we climb towards the third floor, she doesn't seem to relax. It isn't as if I've never known a shy person before, or even shy girls, but Hanako seems to be pretty far beyond what I'd call normal in her fear of other people. If it weren't for Lilly acting as a mediator, I doubt Hanako would have even been able to walk beside me like this. She seems to completely shut down in the presence of others. The rest of the walk up to Lily's classroom continues in strained silence, while I rue her inability to socialize at all. What's this song called again? Nocturne. Good song. After we make our way up the stairs, the noise coming from Lily's classroom is audible from halfway down the hallway. I wasn't expecting such a din at all. Well, I guess we found her. This wasn't hard. Did Hanako come here first, then come to me for backup, I wonder? Well, if that's true, then at least she's starting to trust me a little. That can only be a good thing. Eventually, the two of us reach the door to Class 3-2. With Hanako less than subtly positioning herself behind me, I open the door. Inside is a hive of activity, seemingly every student in the class talking at once as they work hurriedly on their separate tasks. Going by the paint cans, decorations, and banners being made, it must be for the upcoming school festival. I guess my first priority should be finding Lilly. There. Finding her among the din is surprisingly easy, not the least because of her looks. With a couple of students gathered around her as she stands at the front of the class, she seems to be in charge of the preparations, or at least busy organizing them. Carefully negotiating a path through the various students hunched over the floor for a lack of desk space, I raise a hand entirely out of habit as we finally reach Lilly. Hi, Lilly. She perks her head up as she breaks off talking to a noticeably smaller girl who must be her classmate, trying to listen as best she can. Sorry, who? Sorry, Hiseo. I have Hanako, too. Hi. She's pretty skittish. Considering the number of people around, it isn't too hard to work out why. Lilly takes a moment's pause to assess the situation before returning to the other student once again. For the moment, just ask Moria for his advice. Kenji's busy with painting one of the banners already. A quick nod and she bounces off, fingers carefully sliding along the wall's face for orientation. Wait. Kenji? That Kenji? I quickly turn about, leaning to the side to see past Hanako. Sure enough, in a corner of a room, Kenji's hunched over a sheet of cloth as he paints it. His eyes remain only inches from the brush, reminding me of how close he had to be to make out my face when I met him. Sorry about that. Our class doesn't have many students with even partial eyesight, so they're in high demand. That's right, Class 3-2 is especially for students with poor vision. Preparing the festival must be pretty arduous for them. Need a hand? I could give you help if you need some. Maybe Hanako could, too. A chance to set her mind on something would do her good, but I doubt she has the courage to ask outright. She quickly nods in affirmation afterwards, so I'm confident I made the right move. Lilly gives a noticeable sigh of relief. Ah, that's good. This might actually get finished before everyone goes off to dinner now. Would you be able to help the person painting the main banner? It's a big task for him to do, but nobody else can help. Kenji? Sure. She seems surprised that I know him. I can't really blame her. I take it you've met? Our rooms in the dorm are right next to each other. Hard to miss each other, really. Well, it's good to see you're getting friends so fast. Friend. I wonder if that's the right word to use for him. Hanako's silence during the proceeding reminds me of the reason I put her up to helping in the first place. We'll go help him then. He knows what needs doing, right? That's right. Just ask if you have any problems. Chorusing an assent, Hanako and I begin another trek across the classroom. Kenji sits crouched on the floor, his gaze fixed on the white calico in front of him. Hey, Kenji. No answer. He continues dragging his paint-soaked brush along the large, half-painted kanji that's sketched on the sheet in pencil. Kenji? Huh? What? Who is it? If this is the way he treats class members, it's no small wonder he's working on this alone. It's me. He's here from... Right. I know that, man. What are you doing here, though? His dismissive attitude annoys me. He must be the type to get really focused on his work, hating to be disturbed by anyone until he's done, I suppose. While we talk, the sound of Hanako's footsteps as she walks up from behind me reminds me that she's here. I was just going to help with the banner. Hanako and I, that is. Hello. Oh, hey. I guess that's okay. As soon as Hanako enters the equation, his demeanor takes a complete about face. His sudden faux hospitality is slightly unsettling. Alright, women. On second thoughts, this may not have been a great idea after all. Hanako and I grudgingly sat ourselves down on the opposite side of the cloth banner to Kenji, noting the several small paint tins on the ground around it. Class 3-2 noodle stall. Do you guys sell noodles at the festival on Sunday? Yeah, some stalls outside. Or something. Or something? His non-committal nature sparks a fair amount of suspicion on my behalf. The task at hand comes first, though. So how do you want to split this? We do the borders while you do the text? Or do you want to switch and do the borders? Text is mine. You do borders. He has surprisingly strong feelings on the topic. As I reach over to grab a brush, I notice Hanako is already debating between colors to use. By the time I put brush to cloth, she already started on a delicate pattern. Looks like my idea of taking her mind off everyone around her worked. With a dark blue stroke, the three of us silently get to work. Not before Kenji takes advantage of Hanako's working to lean towards me and whisper conspiratorially, though. Okay, man, why are you here? Hanako just wanted some help to find Lilly, that's all. He apparently disapproves of my motivations. I get it. It looks like I misjudged you. You're infiltrating them, aren't you? Going deep undercover. I should have guessed. Letting the truth slip by him would probably be better than outright lying or annoying him, in any case. Is that why you're here? Obviously. It sucks, but there's no better way to get intel than going in yourself. We gotta stick together, man. This is a harsh school, a harsh world. Yes, very harsh. He misses my true meaning as he leans back, satisfied I'm sympathetic to his cause. I'd better get down to work. Finished. Looks like I am too. Good job. The two of us connect up the lines of our patterns, mine being as close a copy as I could manage of hers. With a grunt, I lever myself up from the floor and look around. Aside from Hanako and myself, there's only Kenji left finishing off a sign, as well as Lilly and a couple of students talking among themselves in the classroom. Looking at my watch, it's no surprise. It's getting pretty late. Need a hand? I offer a hand to Hanako, which she uses to get herself up. As she does, I can't help but glance at her wrist. If her scars extend even to there, just how much of her body was burned. I feel a pang of guilt about it, however, as she quickly covers her wrist with her other hand. Looks good, doesn't it? She looks surprised for a moment before noticing that I mean the banner. It does, I guess. Her smile shows that she feels a slight sense of pride in the result, just as I do. With the floor significantly neater for the decorations being placed on desks and shelves, it's much easier to get to Lilly as we cross the room. We finished the banner. I guess that's all that needs to be done? Lilly gives an appreciative nod. Thank you, Hiseo, Hanako. If there's any way I can thank you. It's fine. Beats sitting in my room studying at any rate. I don't mind either. She nods before suddenly remembering one last person. Oh, is Kenji still here? Just as I open my mouth, Kenji gives the answer from the other side of the room. Yeah, just finished. He carefully slides his sign onto an empty section of shelf to dry, before quickly walking past us and out the door. See ya, man. Hi. The remaining two students say their goodbyes to Lilly, before taking their cue to leave as well, leaving only the three of us. Well, I guess that's everyone. I hope we don't have to do anything like that again. Working past school time? Indeed. The class's plans this year were ambitious. Maybe too ambitious. The stalls look nice, though. She's right. It shows that a lot of work's gone into them. My, I'm sure a lot of us would be glad to hear that. At least now there's not much work to do until the festival itself. It's getting pretty late. Should we go? That's probably a good idea. Are you going back to the dorms as well, Hiseo? Yeah, I guess I'll tag along. The nighttime lighting really makes the garden look quite different. Compared to the usual look of lush greenery, things are much more calm. Being that it's so late, the lack of students around probably helps. The odd one or two can be seen scurrying to and from the dorms, trying to eke the most out of their approaching curfew, but no more. All that can be heard is our footsteps, in addition to Lily's cane regularly, gently tapping the ground in front of her. It's nice to finally be able to relax a bit after the mad rush during school. Without even noticing, I let out a small yawn. Oh, good lord. Tired? Yeah, still getting used to the flow of things, I guess. The thing with Shizune took me kind of off guard, though. I grit my teeth a little at the candid mention of the rather public spat. That said, I do want to sort out what in the world was behind it. About that. I'm sorry about it being so public. Sune and I go back some ways. Her voice seemed slightly irritated as she remembered Shizune, obviously unwilling to discuss it any further. I glanced to Hanako for her views on this. Her expression is, unsurprisingly, evasive and difficult to read. Either way, I guess her apologizing for it is something, even if my curiosity goes unanswered. I'll be glad once the festival is over, in any case. The change of topic's welcome, clearing the thickening air quickly. I can imagine. My old school's festivals were a lot more low-key than this. Yamaku stresses the idea of a school community, so the staff likes to make our festivals and such special occasions. And yet the students are the ones who do the work. What an unfair world. Hanako and Lilly both chuckle in agreement, savoring the fact that none of the staff are around to hear our grumbling. I suppose coming from a strict all-girls school helped me with Yamaku. Compared to there, Yamaku is much more relaxed. That'd go a way towards explaining her well-bred speech and behavior in any case. As we come up to the dorms, it eventually comes time to leave for our respective rooms. See you, Lilly. Hanako. The two both give polite nods before setting off to the women's dorms, just next to the guys. As is to be expected of such an arrangement, there's a staff member casually patrolling around outside to prevent any nighttime shenanigans. Walking past him, I quickly stretch my arms and rub my neck, both quite sore after having worked on the floor for so long, before walking to my room. It feels good to actually have direction, though. After so long in the hospital, the everyday facts of studying, homework, and teachers seem almost a blessing. I guess if things continue like this, my time at Yamaku might turn out okay. Adhering to the nurse's nagging voice in the back of my head, I set my alarm clock to wake me up early enough to go jogging again. I made a promise, and I'm going to keep it. Besides, Emmy is bound to rat on me if I don't show up. But it's not all that bad. My morning... Oh, actually, I was going to say first. I want to see if I can get to the first act before... I'm going to have the time. I'm not planning on sleeping anytime soon. My morning alarm goes off, and I flail about uselessly for a while until I remember that I decided to give morning runs another shot. I don't know if this was my greatest idea, but I'm determined to keep going. This is about my health, after all. Sure, things haven't been great lately for me, but that hasn't made existence so intolerable that I'm not going to try everything I can to stay healthy. Besides, it's all about asserting some kind of control over this thing, right? If I can manage that, well, I can manage anything. At least that's what I keep telling myself. Once again, it would appear that I'm not alone in my run. Emmy has apparently been here for some time. It looks like she's already worked up a good sweat. Just when the hell did she come down here anyway? Oh, it's you! I'm surprised to see you again. Why is that? Well, not many people actually manage to come back for a second try. She frowns, seemingly annoyed by a passing thought. Like the rest of the track team, for instance. Still, it was only supposed to be on a volunteer basis, so it's not that big of a shock. And I guess it's pretty early in the morning. A shrug, and suddenly it appears that she's forgotten what she was talking about. The frown disappears entirely. She seems to snap back to her previous train of thought. So, come on then. What? You're here to run again, right? Well, yes. So come on. I find myself suddenly grabbed and yanked onto the track. Things seem to be set on mirroring yesterday's run. That is, I seem to be struggling, while Emmy moves with an effortlessness that I find enviable. It's incredibly bothersome to be so easily worn out. I know I should be patient, work toward things gradually, but it's difficult to stay positive about this. We round the track and start on our second lap. Emmy seems to have grown impatient keeping pace with me and begins to pull away. This is where I gave out yesterday. Will I be able to do more? Take it easy. I let Emmy go with her own pace, and she doesn't show mercy, pulling half a lap ahead of me in an instant. I don't blame her. I mean, it's not as if I'm really putting up any sort of fight out here, is it? Instead, I'm just running at a steady pace, which is what I should be doing, right? There's no need to go pushing my limits at this stage of the game. God, is this even worth it? As we finish the second lap, I break off again. Emmy keeps going, and it almost seems to me that she's disappointed. Well, that's stupid. I don't have anything to prove to her. Come to think of it, I've got nothing to prove to myself, either. I'm just fine the way I am. And what I'm not is a runner. This was probably a bad idea. Maybe there's something else I can do instead of this. Getting up this early sucks, anyway. There's gotta be some other way to keep healthy. Walking, maybe. Nice afternoon walks. Yeah, that sounds good. Running isn't for me. I wave to Emmy and head back to my room. I'll think of something else later. Back in my room, the first thing I see is the familiar row of medication bottles lined up on top of my dresser, and it makes me feel depressed, as usual. It's annoying. I thought I was okay. I thought I had made my peace with this thing, gotten over it. But what I really did, I allowed myself to forget that I have a problem. Being here really reminds me of the reality, and trying to fight against it just hurts. Reflecting on it is only going to do so much. I've done this before, for months. It seems like it's time to get over it. If I allow myself to forget that my life is definitely not going to be as long as those of others, I won't get anywhere. My life may be different from others, but it's a life in progress. That is how I'll rationalize it. I down the usual handful of pills, trying to push the sudden dreary feeling out of my head. Then I prepare to head out to class early, as usual. As I step into the hallway, I notice Kenji coming around the hallway corner, stealthily making his way over to his own room with a large bag. As he sneaks past me, soundlessly like a ninja hiding in plain sight, I call out to him. Hey. He jumps at the sound of my voice. Oh, hey man, I did notice you there. I'm really tired. I think it's more like he didn't see me, but that's not the issue. Where have you been this early? Shopping? Yeah, I wasn't shopping. Sometimes I have to visit the math teacher. Yeah, I figured it would be a good idea to find out when the next exam is, since he tells you in advance if you want. So then what's in the bag? I thought I'd go shopping while I was outside. I need supplies to continue the fight against the vast feminist conspiracy. Okay. I thought you didn't go outside. I wear a hat now. I decide to not point out that he is not wearing a hat. An awkward silence settles between us, and then Kenji breaks it by pushing his door open slowly, releasing a creaking sound into the air that only makes the moment seem more awkward. He sets the bag down inside his room and then closes the door. I'm surprised you went out of your way to find a test date. Trying to take advantage of an opportunity to study is pretty diligent. I never study. Oh. I just wanted to know when the next test day is. Still going to take it, duh. I need to know so I know that day I can't afford to skip class. He usually sends out updates on that crap by phone, so I had to step out and check up on it. And why do you have to go out when you can get it on your phone? I don't carry a phone. What do you mean you don't carry a phone? You mean you just leave it at home? Nah, I don't use phone. I don't have a phone. Phones? I have no phone. Why don't you have a phone? How can you not have a phone? No phone at all? No phone? I just don't like phones. Actually, I'm kind of scared of them. I don't know why. I think it's some kind of repressed trauma. But basically, when I hear a phone, I get nervous. It's my darkest secret. I have two theories on it. Either I have some fear of receiving some undefined, ominous, life-altering doom call, or I was beaten with a phone in the past. Beaten so badly I can't remember it. Beaten in the head. Well, where else could I get beaten with a phone if that would make me able to remember it? The ass? Unexpectedly logical. I feel very depressed now. Sensing this conversation is more or less over, Kenji opens his door again and prepares to head inside. Yeah, I'm gonna sleep, dude. Have a good one. Class is gonna start in like 20 minutes. I already did something today. Too tired to go to school. Hey, you need some lip balm? I accidentally bought two because I thought the store had started selling individual AA batteries. Thanks, but no thanks. Whatever, man. He swiftly enters his lair, finally letting me go to class. For a change, I'm not among the first ones to come to morning class. Instead, almost everyone seems to be here already. I recognize most of my class by their faces now, though the names escape me still. The class goes on lazily. I think I'm starting to get into the rhythm of the school. I've even stopped worrying about taking notes and being overly attentive. The first days I was pretty high-strung in class. Mutoi finished his lecture about electricity early, but continues without a pause about the festival. So, as you know, the festival is on the day after tomorrow. I hope everyone's projects are going to be successful this year. Have a good time, but also, come Sunday, please keep the meaning of the festival in your minds. Games and fried food! Everyone bursts out in laughter, and so do I. Yes, thank you, Mikado. But what I meant was more that the remainder of a sentence is buried beneath the ring of the lunch bells, and everyone starts packing their things. Mutoi deliberates for a moment, but since almost nobody seems to pay attention anymore, he gives up and sits down. It's crowded in the hallway, or as crowded as hallways in the school probably get. Most of the students seem to be heading down for the cafeteria. Hiseo! I'm going to make you a one-time only, super extra special lunch offer. Emmy's homemade lunch boxes, and the privilege of enjoying them with two bombshell beauties. Her overly flirtatious sales pitch echoes in the hallway, a remarkable feat since it's full of people. Emmy strikes a very confident-looking pose, as though as an attempt to one-up her own ridiculousness, puffing her very modest chest and making the V for victory sign with her own hand. Sounds delicious. To what do I owe this honor of being invited? You stood there looking really lost and sad, so I thought you could use some company. That is probably the most depressing reason imaginable. So how about it? You're probably really lonely and would eat that awful cafeteria food all alone otherwise. I'm kidding. Sure, I'll have your lunch offer. With pleasure. Let's go to the roof. The roof? Why the roof? Because that's where we eat lunch. And if I don't get up there, then she'll probably wander off, and then I just know she'll go hungry because she never packs a lunch for herself. Who will? Come with me. Without answering my question or waiting for a response, she grabs me by the arm and drags me through the hallways. I attempt to make conversation on the way. Why do you have an extra lunch? Emmy smiles guiltily. Actually, it's yesterday's lunch. I slipped in a run at lunch and forgot to eat it. Huh. The stairway to the roof is a little dilapidated, but it's clearly been used recently. At the top of the stairs is a door, complete with missing padlock. I wonder who the intrepid individual was that removed the lock. Emmy shoves the door open and steps, beaming into the sunlight. Suddenly, a tall, dark stranger appears out of nowhere, standing imposingly in front of us. Emmy flinches back, almost falling down the stairs. Hello. Yipes, you scared me, Rin. Wait, isn't she? Hello. Noticing that Rin is speaking to me, Emmy looks curiously at me. You two know each other? I look confusedly at Emmy. She's that friend of yours? Rin has turned her gaze toward the clouds drifting above the school. I didn't know you knew this person, Emmy. The awkward silence lasts only for a few seconds, but until Emmy lets out a tiny giggle, shrugging the coincidence off. I invited Hiseo for lunch. If you know him, that's just better. Oh, does this mean I don't get food? Or did you invite him for lunch without the lunch? Neither. I have food for 3. Nice thinking. They walk to the other end of the roof while I stay at the clock tower for a while, taking in the atmosphere. There's nobody else but us here. I guess the roof is not as popular as it is in other schools. A few rundown benches and tables are scattered around the edges, perhaps in an attempt to make the roof look less desolate. The small pebbles covering the roof rattle beneath our feet. I peek through the chain-link fence to take a look at the school grounds and beyond. Students are strolling in pairs and groups around the quadrangle and at the cafeteria. A few delivery trucks are driving past the school towards the convenience store nearby. Somewhere, a watchdog barks at a passerby. Somehow, when I look towards the town center, the small town feel strikes me very strongly, almost palpably. The hectic lifestyle of big metropolises seems so far away and foreign here. Nobody has to run to catch a bus like their life depended on it, or get their senses overloaded by the neon lights and traffic jams. I feel surprisingly optimistic about this new life of mine, looking at my new hometown, even if it's going to be mine for only one short year. Finding out about my illness and having to move away from home all came so suddenly, I haven't had time to think about how I feel about it. When I step out of the shadow of the clock tower to the open, I feel warmth touching my back. The sun shines from a perfectly clear, cerulean sky. A cool breeze sweeping over the rooftop makes me shiver, but only briefly. The wind carries the scent of trees and flowers, not smog and car exhaust like it used to, just a few weeks ago. Emmy settles on a bench with Rin in tow and produces one big and two small lunch boxes from her bag. Come on, Hiseo, what are you waiting for? She's beckoning me to join them, making room on the already small bench. I seat myself on the corner of the bench to take as little space as possible. It's pretty cramped, but somehow all three of us fit on it. Impressive view? Emmy suppresses a giggle and places a lunchbox in front of Rin and hands another lunchbox to me. Here you go, lunch, as promised. Homemade, no less. I'm impressed. Wow, this looks really good. Thanks, I make them myself when I can. Conversation dies off as I set about the business of feeding myself. Taking a few bites, I glance up and notice Rin deftly opening the lunchbox and popping a forkful of food into her mouth using only her feet. Even though I've seen it before, I can't help but be impressed at her dexterity. It's also a reminder of the sort of place I'm in right now. Will I ever get used to sights such as this? I can't decide if getting used to such a thing would be a good thing or a bad thing either. Does getting used to this place mean that I'm giving up on being a normal person? Or does it just mean that I'm becoming more understanding about those around me? I'm distracted from my thoughts by the sight of Emmy tearing into her lunch as if it had insulted her ancestors. You seem pretty hungry. Emmy looks up, mouth half full, and swallows before nodding. My morning run always works up an appetite. Which is great, because then I burn through lunch pretty quickly. Helps me keep my girlish figure. What would happen if you'd lose it? Would you become a man? I very nearly choke on my lunch, trying not to laugh. It's a figure of speech. Does your figure have to run in the mornings too? Do you always talk like this? Talk like what? I think that answers my question. Never mind. So, I struggle to think of small talk and settle on the obvious question. How'd you two meet? Rin seems content to let Emmy answer the question. Someone in the housing department thought we'd complement each other well, so we were assigned rooms next to one another. Complement each other? Like shoes and a suit. Huh? Emmy giggles at my confusion. Put us together and we've got all our limbs. Get it? Ah. So I started helping Rin get ready in the mornings, and that was that. I mean, you can't help someone get dressed every morning and not get along. I see. Rin chooses this moment to interject. I have trouble with shirts. Right, that seems fairly obvious. Really? Kind of? This isn't helping, but at least Emmy seems to find the whole thing funny. That, combined with the fact that Rin is genuinely curious, makes me feel slightly better and yet confused. I mean, you've got no arms, so putting on a shirt seems like one of those things that would be difficult. You know what? I'm just going to stop talking now. It'll save me a lot of trouble in the long run. Rin nods in what I suspect is meant to be a sage manner. I see. The conversation dies as I turn my attention back to my lunch. It's really quite good. Emmy finishes her lunch first and makes a contented noise. Ah, that was good. As she busies herself with cleaning up her lunch, Rin speaks up. I'm thirsty. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Sorry. With a flourish, she reaches into her bag and removes a trio of juice boxes. He tosses me one that appears to be cranberry juice, one to Rin that appears to be some kind of strawberry milk, complete with pink color scheme, and and keeps an equally pink box of some kind of fruit punch for herself. Rin dexterously stabs her straw through the top of the box and begins to drink. I'm once again impressed by how flexible she is, but this time I keep my comment to myself. Somehow I don't think Emmy or Rin are the sorts of people who to think twice about the way they work around their particular disabilities. Rin especially so. Indeed, she gives off the impression of being entirely unaware that she's missing any limbs at all. Whether or not that's a conscious decision is another matter. I'm honestly not sure. So, Hiseo, how do you like it up here? It's quite nice, actually. I like high places for the view. Thanks for inviting me up here. And for the lunch, too. Emmy grins a 1,000-watt grin, pleased by my response, I suppose. No problem. Feel free to eat with us next time, too, okay? I won't make you lunch, but you can bring your own up here. No lunch service? I don't know. Emmy looks mock offended. Trying to take advantage of my good nature? The nerve. She giggles. Well, if that's your answer, I guess Rin and I will just keep eating lunch all alone. I am suddenly assaulted by the most heartrending puppy dog eyes I've ever seen as Emmy pouts. Kidding, I was kidding. I'd love to eat lunch up here again. Good location, and the company's okay, too. Emmy frowns a bit at my declaration of okay, but seems happy enough that I've accepted her invitation. I guess this makes us friends now. Or at least acquaintances. The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. Rin, you didn't finish your lunch again. I wasn't that hungry. If you don't eat more, you're going to fade away. Rin shrugs, as if this is an acceptable risk. Come on, we'd better get going. The three of us head down the stairs together. The afternoon class passes. Once again, I find myself without a plan for something to do after school, so I head to the library to return a couple of books I finished reading. Walking inside, I see that there are about as many students here as there were on Tuesday, all the more evident from the almost total silence enveloping the room. As I drop the books I'd borrowed from the return slot into the return slot in the counter, Yuko suddenly pops up from behind it, quite startled from the banging they make as they hit the trolley next to her. Sorry, Yuko. Didn't mean to startle you. No, that's fine. It happens a lot. I'm used to it by now. Can I help you? It's okay. I think I know where everything is. Thanks anyway. I suppose I'll grab another book or two while I'm here. There's not much else to do, and after reading so much during my stay in the hospital, it's become a hard habit to break. I wander down to the fiction section, towards the back of the library, scanning the bookshelves for anything that catches my eye. As I do, I look over to the corner where Hanako had been the last time I was here, not really expecting anything to come of it. Surprisingly, though, she's there, absorbed completely in a fairly thick book. I decide against intruding on her like last time, and get back to finding reading material. After an indiscernible amount of time spent perusing the aisles, I finally decide on a couple of books to get and slide them off the shelf. With a minimum of fuss, I quickly walk over to the counter, check out my books, and pop them in my bag as I walk out. By the time I leave the main building, sunset isn't too far away. A small trickle of students remain, but the majority have left, presumably to their homes and dorms. I guess I need to buy some supplies. I can't live off cafeteria food and eating out for my entire stay here. As I leave for the gate, I make a few loud stretches to try and stave off the tiredness that's accumulated over the week. After passing through and rounded the corner, though, I see a solitary figure walking downhill towards the small town below. The color of her hair and tapping of her cane are unmistakable. I quickly walk up to her, which seemed to catch her attention without a word needing to be said. Hi, Lilly. She takes a moment to place the voice, slightly adjusting her head to face a bit more towards the source of my voice as she does. Hiseo? Yep, that's me. Seems to have a good memory for voices. The fact that she actually remembered is a pleasant surprise. Good evening. What brings you here? Once again, she gives a small polite bow, and once again, I reply in kind before realizing that I needn't do so. Just going into town. You? My, what a coincidence. Doing the same thing, eh? I usually go shopping on Fridays. She paused for a moment, suddenly looking a little lost. That said, Hanako usually comes into town with me. Ah, not lost, but worried. The two do seem to keep pretty close tabs on one another. It's kind of surprising that Hanako would just forget Lilly like that. I noticed her reading in the library. She probably just got caught up in a book. She lets out a small sigh of relief. Thank you. She has a habit of doing that. Avid reader? Right. She doesn't like being around crowds of people, so reading away from everyone lets her relax a bit. Although she probably didn't intend it, I can't help but grimace as I recall my first meeting with her. Hardly wanting to bring it up, I remained silent as we quietly continued to walk down the quiet road. Tack, 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 tack. With the road bereft of cars and the students of Yamaku increasingly far behind us, the quiet rustling of the leaves and the measured tapping of Lily's cane against the sidewalk are all that can be heard. It's kind of nice, especially compared to the hustle and bustle of where I used to live. Before I know it, I've relaxed so much that a loud yawn escapes before I can control it. Tired? Yeah, I've been running ragged these past few days. That's an understatement, to be sure. Transferring into a different school would be bad enough, but nothing like this. Well, hopefully everything should settle down for you. The festival's got everyone in a spin right now, and you've been plopped right in the middle of things. For a moment I hesitate, but given her apparent tolerance for frankness, I decide to give my full thoughts. I guess. Yamaku's kind of different, though. I mean, the formality surrounding everything, the isolation around it. Not to mention the most obvious difference. It's kind of a whole different mindset. I suppose I'll get used to it in time, though. She gives a matter-of-fact nod, apparently pleased with my answer. Feels almost as if she's included me in the flock of students she's shepherding, along with Class 3-2 and Hanako. Well, not that I mind. It's nice to get the thoughts off my chest in any case. Looking on the bright side, one can see it as a chance for a new beginning. You should cherish the ability to make new friends. That's optimistic. Nonetheless, it's good to have a positive attitude about such things, I suppose. I guess that's a good take on it. Walking on down the road, she seems to become somewhat unsettled. Before I can ask what's on her mind, she seems to collect herself and speaks up about something else. So, where in town were you going? That's actually a pretty good question. I'd come in to buy food, but the layout of the place is still totally foreign to me. I intended to just wander around and see what I could find, but with sunset already approaching and nightfall not too far away, that doesn't seem very wise. I'm gonna have to ask her for directions. Again. I was just going to get some food, but now that you mention it, I don't really know the way. Well now, this is quite lucky. I was just about to go to the convenience store myself. Looks like I'll be in your care again then. Thanks. Together we walk to the store. My pace is carefully slowed to remain beside her. Compared to my usual walking pace, hers is quite a bit slower. Not that it's without reason. After what couldn't be more than several minutes, I catch sight of our objective. This town really is pretty small. Without further ado, we make our way inside with a greeting from the counter. Mind if I tag along with you? Usually Hanako would help me, but seeing as she's not here. It takes a moment before I realize what she means. Considering she wouldn't be able to read any of the labels, shopping with... What is happening with my throat right now? Considering she wouldn't be able to read any of the labels, shopping without any help would be a big pain for her. That said, I can't shake the feeling that she's had this idea since I said I was coming here. Sure, it'd be my pleasure. I grabbed 2 well-used red baskets from the small stack beside the entrance, handing one to Lilly. Alright, 1 second, I hope that fixes it. He lays it on the ground, putting her school bag in, retracting her cane, and sliding it through the basket's handles before picking it back up in her right hand. Wait, if she doesn't use her cane... Before I can complete the thought, she comes beside me and pinches the cuff of my uniform in her slender fingers. Is this all right? Sure. I have no reason not to accept. I can think of worse things than shopping with a pretty girl holding on to me, even if it is out of necessity. We navigate our way through the store, with not one of the occasional passing customers seeming to bat an eye. Considering how close Yamaku is, I guess seeing students from there must be entirely normal for the local residents. As we reach each aisle, I quickly check with Lilly and find out what she needs. I grab it along with what I'm looking for and put our items into their respective baskets. I guess this is the same routine she and Hanako follow every Friday. Right, all that's left is the bread, and that should be my shopping done. Do you need anything else, Lilly? No, this should be everything. Off we go, then. With a quick side trip to the bakery section, we make our way to the registers. The line, thankfully, is almost non-existent. It's not long before we both paid for our food and are out the door. As Lilly retrieves her cane and extends it to full length, I waste a minute looking upwards at the night sky while holding both our bags. For a moment, I try to make clouds with my breath, but the summer's heat doesn't seem to cooperate. Eventually, she rights herself, taking a quick stretch before taking her bag and leaving me to my two. You tired as well? The festival preparations have been complete chaos. Suzune breathing down my neck doesn't exactly help things either. Hey, she's only trying to get everything organized. Better now than later, right? I suppose. I'm going to enjoy relaxing in town tomorrow, that's for sure. I guess the festival preparation must be taking their toll on both of them. We walk into the quiet street, talking between ourselves as we carry our bags of food and supplies from the store. Wait, what's that? I notice a very distinct figure making its way toward us, silhouetted by the street lamps. For a second, I think it's another male student from my class, but as he, or should I say she, gets closer, I recognize her quickly. Rin? What are you doing out here so late? Rin? Lilly perks her head, looking like she's trying to focus on listening more keenly. It suddenly comes to me that I should probably interpret the scene for her. It's Rin. Tezuka, I think was her last name, from our school. She stiffens at the name and gives a complicated-looking expression, something like a forced fusion of a composed smile and a painful cringe. Ah, I understand. I guess Lilly knows Rin, too. Rin turns to look at us, looking terribly out of it. I'm not entirely sure if she recognizes either of us, or at least she doesn't acknowledge it if she does. She looks like a zombie. Or a statue. A statue of a zombie. But slowly, some symptoms of understanding seem to lighten her dark eyes. This is something she must react to. Rin blinks once, very thoroughly. Hello. There's an awkward pause, everyone waiting for someone else to say something. What are you doing here this late? I was wondering about that myself, too, just now. Some people asked that just before. I assume they were wondering the same thing. I didn't know. They didn't know either. I asked. That's why I'm wondering. So that was pretty much it. It's a murder mystery without a murder. They were going that way. He turns facing to her right in order to demonstrate the direction the other people went in, as if that was important, then rotates back like a mechanical puppet in one of those overly complicated clockworks. For a person who gives an impression of being the quiet type, Rin really does use a lot of words to say things that don't need a lot to be said. Unsure if she's finished, I say nothing. Neither does Lilly, who seems equally robbed of words for the time being. I think that both of us are in fact just scared that any response might provoke her to continue. Our stupefied lack of reaction doesn't faze Rin at all. She keeps looking at us expectantly, a calm hint of expression on her blank face. Seems to be that kind of person, always so relaxed. As if bull elephant-grade sedatives were flowing in her veins in the place of blood. Do you have amnesia? I don't recall you having anything of the sort, though. No, I don't think it's that. The other passers-by were probably just worried, though. You do look really lost, the way you're standing in the middle of the street. Oh, I see. Maybe I should have taken some other kind of pose in that case. I ponder for a while whether I should chase this angle further, or give up for the sake of my own sanity. I decide on the latter. It seems that most of the time it's better to not read too deeply into what Rin is babbling about. Talking with Rin is like playing chess with a supercomputer who does seemingly completely random moves, as if to mock everything you know about chess. It's like that, except with human interaction. And even if I win, it feels like I'm losing. Damn, it's just like Kenji said. Even when I win, I lose. Is this the power of the girls of Yamaku? I push the thought aside as too dangerous to consider further. It's probably just Kenji's anti-female propaganda getting to me during a moment of weakness. Yeah, maybe taking another pose might have worked. So anyway, you have no idea what you're doing here? She frowns, looking extremely displeased either my question, its consequences, or the answer she's about to give. I do have some idea. I can't really tell what kind of an idea, though. That sounds like progress, at least. Lily sounds as if she spotted an opening for some kind of discernibly normal conversation. They can't say I share her optimism. Yes, there is. Definitely. The rest will come later. I'm sure of it. I always have reasons. The ensuing silence kills Lily's hopes all too visibly. That didn't last long. Rin's, as far as I can tell, unbased assurances aside, what should be done? We could just leave her to town. We could just leave her to her own devices, whatever those are. But it's late, and I don't think we'll be getting any thanks if Rin is found standing here in the middle of the night. Which she probably will, unless she manages to remember what she was doing here in the first place. As for me trying to guess what might have been going on in her mind when she decided to embark on this adventure, the chances seem on par with winning the lottery. Several times in a row. Lily is oddly quiet, too. I'd appreciate some support from the sidelines here, especially if she's more familiar with Rin than I am. But it can't be helped. It seems her familiarity with Rin is exactly why she's staying subdued. So, I assume you were going somewhere, not coming back to the school. Any idea where? Her eyes widen in shock as she jolts back in a somewhat artificial way, making it seem like an act rehearsed for situations like this. Are you a mind reader? Is that your disability? How unique. No, what? Why would you think that? You knew what I was doing. It was just an educated guess. We walked the same street in the other direction just before, to get to the store. If you were going to school, we would have met you on the way. Oh. She looks a little disappointed. Like Kenji, Rin appears quick to jump to completely irrational conclusions. Maybe it's something in the water here. I make a mental note to stock up on soft drinks. You know, that is the second time this week that someone asked if I was a mind reader. Do you really give off that impression? Rin shrugs her shoulders, which is all the answer I get. You know, maybe you should come with us back to the school. Lily interjects just as I'm about to further debunk my alleged mind-reading capabilities. She sounds rather concerned, the paper-thin smile on her face badly disguising that fact. Maybe she came to the same conclusion as I did. For everyone's sake, I decided to let the mind-reading topic drop, as it's entirely inane anyway. Yeah, Lily's right. If you can't remember, there's no point staying here. Rin considers this rather simple deduction for a moment, then nods. Okay. We start towards the school again, having wasted way more time than necessary with this episode. Rin walks along the edge of the sidewalk in her rhythmic way, looking like a mix of a sleepwalker and rope dancer. Lily keeps one hand on my shoulder, tapping at the ground with her cane. Tap, step, step, tap, tap, step, step, step. Apart from that and a few fragmented beginnings of conversation, it's quiet. A quiet quite apart from the relaxing one at a town at that. So, how's the meal going? We are going to get bad luck. Never talk about works in progress. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. Bad luck. Tap, step, tap, step. She doesn't care to talk about it. Lily's politeness feels out of place for the first time. Step, step, step. The hill Yamaku rests on top of, is surprisingly steep, going uphill. We slow the pace, but I still feel my pulse rising and breathing getting heavier. Almost there. I can see the gates already. More than that, though, I notice that Lily's hand slightly tightens on my shoulder. Interpreting it as a gesture that she wants to ask something, I speak up. Anything wrong, Lily? I resist the urge to say, aside from our traveling companion, but only just. For a moment she seems to debate whether she should even bring it up. but goes for it anyway. Is everything alright? Alright? How do you mean? The fact that I can't interpret her incredibly vague question puts her off for a second. It's just, you seem unusually tired, I guess. Now that she brings it up, I notice that my breathing is strangely heavy. The uphill walk has really done a job on me. Lilly noticed it all too quickly. It's alright, I just need to catch my breath. My condition isn't the best these days. Oh. Is it something that is related to you being transferred here? I mean... She cut herself off rather abruptly, maybe realizing she was being a bit intrusive. Her instincts are sharp, though, and while I don't like the subject, it's not like I should lie about it. If it's Lilly, I don't think I mind. I'm just a little weak for the time being. Hanako said you look fairly healthy, so I naturally thought... Lilly doesn't finish her sentence again, letting it trail off with a measure of concern. As she furrows her brow, Lily's uncomfortable expression spurs me to say at least something to ease her feelings. It's surprising she's this flustered. Considering her straightforward attitude with her own blindness, she must know that not all share her own comfort about such things. No, it's okay. I have a pretty... I guess the best way to put it would be messed up heart. Arrhythmia. I had a bad heart attack a while ago because of it, and spent most of the spring in a hospital. Ended in Yamaku on doctor's orders. She silently nods her head in acknowledgement. My answer, though, only seems to make Lilly furrow her brow even further. She doesn't seem to quite know how to react, given we don't really know each other that well. I can't really fault her for it, given that I have the exact same reaction. To my surprise, in a moment's time, her face shows that she comes to some sort of realization. Wait, so the time when Emmy and you collided in the hallway. I grimace slightly. Her ability to connect the dots quite so fast is unexpected. Yeah, I guess I'm a textbook example of why those rules about running in the corridors exist. That was a lot more dry than I intended. Lilly visibly shies away from continuing the topic. Well, I do want to assuage her concerns. I don't really want to dwell on this either. Don't worry about it. I try to offer a reassuring smile, but then I realize the futility. Without knowing this, Lilly smiles at me reassuringly, but doesn't say anything further. Arriving at the dorms, Rin stops in front of her mural, as if lightning struck her. She had been so quiet for almost all the walk back that I'd all but forgotten she was here. It's Friday, isn't it? Yes, Friday, the 8th of June. This is bad. Bad? Why? I think I'm going to go in a fetal position and throw up. Possibly in reverse order. Is something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. It's Friday and nothing is wrong yet. This mural, it's going to need to be finished by Sunday, so everything's alright. Do you have any drugs? Or a time machine? This is not good. Not good. So she's behind her schedule. Recalling Shizune's exasperation at Rin's carefree attitude several days ago, I don't know what to think. She's left herself open for a told you so, unless she can pull off whatever she needs to pull off by Sunday afternoon, or Sunday morning. Rin keeps staring at her mural, looking as mortified as she can. Leave me. I'm going to need to work for a while. I glance at Lilly, expecting her to share an incredulous look with me as I roll my eyes. Then I realize she's not one to do that kind of thing. Leave me. We do, of course, not wanting to aggravate her any more than she already is. There's a churning bad feeling in my gut. Rin sure has a knack of making people feel worried about her. Seems like a person who should never be left alone. Maybe we should call someone? She sounded like she was going into shock or something. I'm sure she will be just fine. She just, how to say... Lily cocks her head a little, trying to find a polite way of calling Rin crazy without calling her crazy. Unique? Yes, a very unique person. I guess you could say that. She giggles at the notion melodiously, nodding in agreement. Sorry about leaving you stranded as you talk to her. I don't really understand her, so I keep my distance. So my guess was right. Lilly offers a slight apologetic smile, as if she was sorry that her own shortcomings had prevented her from becoming closer to Rin. I'm not one to blame her at all. Ooh. Lilly let slip a long breath, probably a disguised yawn. I imagine she's exhausted by as exhausted by all this as I am. I'd better leave now and give these to Hanako. Thank you for the company, Hisao. She smiles very sweetly at me. Feels different than normal, despite the fact that she seems to be smiling so often. I can't put my finger on what the difference is. It's just different. Relaxed, I'd say, but that's probably just relief over getting rid of Rin. Maybe. Yeah, good night. Say hi to Hanako for me. I will. Good night. Okay, so now, whatever the next choice is. God, there's a lot before this festival actually starts. Oops. But I do kind of want to get there. I want to get through Act 1. It's partially my fault. I could have just saved in Hanako's route at the point where the answers would split, but I didn't think about doing that because I'm a little bit dumb. The students roll into class for the Saturday morning session, each and every one of them sporting the tired eyes of people who have worked through the night. With only a day left to prepare, I suppose it's not so surprising. Thankfully, we only have to suffer through classes until the lunch break, and then our time is our own. Mutoi lurches into class in a tired stagger. I suppose students aren't the only people here that enjoy their late Friday nights. Without saying a word, he scrawls some page and question numbers on the board and slumps down at his desk. It's completely atypical behavior for him, but it appears that no one in the class is going to call him out on it. Wordlessly, the students shuffle their textbooks into position and get to work. Not wanting to break the trend, I do the same. Fatigue has made the class antisocial. Not a peep is heard among the ruffling papers. That can partially be attributed to the 2 empty seats beside me. For some reason, Misha and Shizune aren't present, probably doing council work for the festival. It's very quiet without Misha present. I wonder if she was born as rowdy as she is, or if she was making up for Shizune's lack of voice. Nikai, can I speak to you for a moment? I'm so engrossed in thinking about Misha that I don't even notice Mutoi approaching my desk. Sure. What's this about? It's probably better if we speak outside the classroom. Something about this doesn't sound too good, but I stand up and follow him out into the hallway. Mutoi stands in the hallway, scratching his head as he works out what he is trying to say. Not knowing what is going on, I wait silently. So, tell me, how are things? God, that turned into Joe from Family Guy. I paid her. Thanks? I expected Mutoi to be a little vague, but this is pushing the limits. You know, thanks. You've had a week to settle in now, so how are things? Fine, I guess. I see. And how is your condition? The pause before condition seemed a little unnecessary. Haven't had any problems so far. A brief shimmer of relief passes across Mutoi's face. Good, that's good. The school nurse was being a little concerned that you might have been pushing yourself a bit too hard. He asked me to keep an eye on you when he couldn't. That makes sense. I'd ask that you don't blow us off so freely. As much as we try to give you the level of education that you would get at a normal school, you have to realize that you have limits. Our goal is to make sure that you know where those limits are and how to maximize your potential within them. Do you follow me? I guess. I mean, I don't plan on doing anything stupid. Well, that's a start, I guess. So then, on to my next question. How are you finding your studies? I understand you were laid up for a while. We're not too far ahead, are we? I don't really think so. I tried to keep up when I was in the hospital, so it hasn't been too hard. Mutoi taps his chin and raises an eyebrow as he absorbs this information. Is that so? I suppose there are still students out there who recognize the importance of learning. I wouldn't go that far. I was only trying to keep myself occupied in my little life support prison. Well, yeah, you gotta keep up with those things, right? That's exactly it. One wrong move in this world and you're left behind, right? I cannot keep a consistent voice for him right now, I don't get it. Oh. Yeah, right. Wouldn't want that to happen. No, you wouldn't. Every week there's a new scientific discovery. Most of them would mean nothing to the layperson, but any one of them could be the key to the next big thing. I'll keep that in mind. It's obvious that Mutoi's serious talk is over, and he's gone back to his standard, slightly scatterbrained approach to life. I think, in hindsight, that I prefer him this way. He's slightly more predictable in his unpredictability. Well then, I think that's all I really had to say. Let's get back inside, shall we? My relief at that suggestion is insurmountable. Sure, you're the boss, right? Mutoi pauses for a moment. I don't think any of my students have ever said that to me before. For instance, I consider replying to this, but something deep within me tells me to shut my mouth and get back into the classroom. A few of the students jump at the sound of the door, rapidly trying to pretend that they are working on the questions on the board. Some don't even bother, their heads slumped on their desk as they nap. Thankfully, it would appear that Mutoi does not even notice them. He returns to a desk and retrieves a scientific journal from one of the drawers. I guess I got to him there. The class returns to the near silence that Mutoi and I left it in before our chat. Mixed feelings of tiredness and anticipation buzz around the room. Everyone here is either waiting for a chance to rest or the chance to get their last-minute preparations underway. The clock on the wall slowly ticks the remaining class time away, until finally the bells cry out, ending the torment. Before you all leave, I expect the answers for those problems by Monday. The class sighs as one, instantly regretting slacking off, but still acutely aware of the more pressing issues at hand. The classroom empties in a blink, as everyone rushes to the last-minute festival preparations. I stay behind and try to quickly finish the questions so I don't have to bother with it over the rest of the weekend, with the festival and all tomorrow. Apart from me, Hanako's the only one left, obviously waiting for Lilly. It's weird that Lilly comes all the way to our classroom to pick her up. I expect that moving around is at least nominally harder for her than it is for Hanako. But it's none of my business, and I naturally don't ask about it from Hanako. Despite the relative proximity of our seats, neither tries to strike up a conversation about that, or anything else either, so an oppressive silence falls upon the classroom. Time passes in silence. It's probably just 15 minutes or so, but it feels longer. I turn pages of my notebook. Hanako turns pages of the novel she's reading. My pencil lead splinters against the paper just when I was about to finish a paragraph. The sound of my irritated sigh and subsequent fumbling around for a sharpener feel like they're breaking the mood in the classroom. Hanako keeps her eyes firmly away from my direction. Before long, Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. Hanako? Her name is all it takes to make Hanako jump up from her desk and run to Lilly. They talk quietly for a moment, but it isn't long before Lilly leaves down the hall and Hanako idles back into the classroom, taking her seat once again. I watch Hanako out of the corner of my eye, out of sheer curiosity at the idea that the two would be separated. For a couple of minutes, she does nothing but sit with her chin in her hand, staring at the desk dejectedly. The boredom evidently becomes too much for her, though, her slender frame reaching into her bag and pulling out a small book. Come to think of it, that isn't the one I saw her reading at the library. She must be quite a fast reader to get through them at this rate. God damn it, what is my throat doing? That was a violent cough. But why would Lilly leave her to her own devices? It seems to be quite out of the ordinary, going by Hanako's reaction. Ah, that's right. I think Lilly mentioned something about going into town today before Rin bumped into us. The thought of that walk makes me look outside. The bright sun and occasional people wandering around and enjoying the afternoon make me yearn to get out of school, or at least do something other than sit here. Given one of my worst vices, procrastination, I decide that history is a subject best studied on a Sunday, or a Monday, or on any day other than this one. I give a grunt as I lever myself out of my seat, briefly debating with myself whether or not to hang out with Kenji. He doesn't strike me as the enjoying the nice weather outside with others kind of person, really. I guess I'll catch up with him later. Changing tacks, I briefly entertain the idea of talking with Hanako. By the time I look at her seat, it's vacant. She must have left for the library. There's got to be something to do. Alright. Let's go take a look in town. This is right? Go for a walk in town. Yes. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive. Oh, jeez. Sturm TVW, thank you for the follow. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive. There was a reason she left the classroom, after all. And that aside, I do want to catch up with Lilly. At the very least, I'd like to thank her for looking out for me, despite her other, obviously taxing duties. I guess I'll walk around town. With any luck, I should be able to find Lilly. The exercise will do me good as well. Walking through the school courtyard to the gate, I give a small nod to a couple of passing classmates, gesture being returned in kind. Even from here, the shouts of the sports club members can be heard. In the sheer volume of the din, the track must be packed right now. I remember what Lilly said yesterday, about being dropped right into the middle of a busy time for the school. I'm trying to get my bearings and catch up on study that I've missed. Everyone else is doing normal school activities. The feeling of being a foreigner still hasn't dissipated, at least not yet. Well, I guess not everything's bad. This is a private school, and that much is easily noticed when walking around outside. Not only are the school grounds huge, but the buildings themselves are immaculate and quite divorced from a dime a dozen concrete blocks of public schools. There's also the fact that there's a much stronger feeling of community here, or at least a friendlier atmosphere. At my old school, it was generally accepted that people would keep to their little clique and be done with it. Eventually, I reach the gate and begin to walk down the road into town. Well, that was fairly productive. Having seen a fair portion of town, even including the houses perched on the hills around the outskirts, I decided to take a walk around the park before heading back. Living in the city all my life, the total lack of smartly dressed businessmen and fashionably dressed girls strikes me as incredibly unusual. All that's to be seen are the odd elderly person shuffling along the sidewalk and assorted busily chatting pairs of middle-aged women outside of small storefronts. Walking along the road to the park quickly distracts me from them, though, making me realize that I perhaps pushed myself further than I should have. Perhaps I pushed myself further than I should have done to see as much as I could. As my breath begins to wheeze and my chest tightens more and more, I give up on the prospect of soldiering on. After a quick glance around the park as I enter, I take a seat on a wobbly old bench that I notice near a couple of vending machines. For minutes on end, I sit with my head bent over, force myself to take deep breaths. I feel more like an old man than a teenager who should be in the prime of his life. The stay in the hospital, the surgery, and the medications must be taking their toll on me. Damn it. Eventually, my breathing returns to normal, and the muscles in my chest loosen. Not without a fair measure of relief. I guess this means the end of my little sojourn, though, in any case. There's a cafe on the far corner, so I'll stop by to quench my thirst before heading back. A little bell above the door signals my arrival to an empty counter. For a few moments I stand there waiting, my eyes every now and again drifting from one end of the counter to the other, searching for a service bell. Eventually, a door some ways behind the counter opens, the person emerging from it taking me by complete surprise. Yuko? Hi, I had no idea you worked here. I really have no idea how to address her either, given that she technically is school staff as well as apparently a waitress. Yes. She quickly paces up to the counter before flinging her upper half downwards in an overacted bow. Welcome to the Shanghai. May I take your order? Straight down to business, I see. I don't know, well, some coffee, please? Yes, certainly. I'll make it right away and bring it to you when it's done. Thanks. Yuko's formality takes me aback. Seems to take her job very seriously. Obeying her instructions, I turn around and quickly glance around for a free table. Considering the cafe seems to be empty, this is a simple task to accomplish. As I walk towards the table adjacent to the window, I notice a flash of yellow around one of the table dividers. Sure enough, no more than a glance is needed to ascertain that it's a certain Satoi at the table. That said, I don't recognize the suited figure across the table from her. Blonde, fair-skinned, and only a little shorter. She? I think she. Must be a relative. As the two are all but silent as the suited figure takes a swig from a cup of coffee, I decide to greet Lilly. Some part of my coming here was in order to meet her, after all. Hi, Lilly. Hiseo? Yeah, nice to see you again. A suited girl looks up, noting my uniform with a relaxed smile. Know each other? I guess. It's as good an approximation of relationship as I can think. Care to take a seat? He says this to the air beside me, but the message is clear enough, and I take a seat beside her. I suppose some introductions might be in order. Hiseo, this is Akira Satao, my older sister. Akira, this is Hiseo Nakai, another Yamaku student. Looks like my guess was correct. The newly introduced Akira gives a nod, which I return. What I don't return, however, is the almost analytical gaze with which she looks me over. As she does so, Yuko walks up to the table and carefully places the coffee on the table before bowing and taking her leave. Gently bringing my hand to the side of the cup, I realize that it's already at just the right temperature to drink. After taking a sip, the flavor turns out to be just as good as the temperature. Yuko seems a lot better at this than being a librarian. I take a good long drink before relaxing into the seat. It takes mere seconds for Akira's examination to come to an end. Apparently becoming bored with the activity, she turns to her sister. So, how's school recently? It seems Akira is entirely unconcerned with someone she doesn't know at all, listening to everything they say. Not that I mind. Leaving them to their chatting, I sit back and continue drinking the pleasantly aromatic coffee. Sounds like it's pretty fizzy for you then. God. At least I'm not cooking your meals after school anymore. As they talk, I slowly realize that I'm entirely unable to gauge Liz's emotions through their eyes, as I would for any other person. It becomes slightly unsettling as I subconsciously focus on that fact. Whoa, so cold. Weren't you just cooking for yourself anyway? I only ever got leftovers. That's not the point. Are you managing to feed yourself, at least? I can cook without blowing myself up, you know. Mostly. That's... It's fine. I need to learn sometime anyway. Lilly? Everyone present is momentarily distracted by Yuko, who places a cup of tea on the table for Lilly. Taking the moment to glance at her watch, Akira levers herself off her seat and gives me a quick nod. Well, I'd better be off. It was nice talking to you, Lilly. Akira, do you have to... Lilly looks generally mournful at her sister suddenly leaving. It does seem like she might have the wrong idea. Sorry, I need to get back to work. They'll be on my neck again if I don't make it back quickly. So informal. Akira's trim and tidy appearance would give anyone the wrong impression of her. Bye, Akira. Come on, don't look so down. I'll be around again soon. See us. With that, she waltzes out of the Shanghai with her hand held high. Lilly still looks pretty depressed, so I try to make some small talk in an effort to take her mind off of it. She seems nice. We used to live together, but now that I live at school, we hardly ever see each other. Despite Lilly having been quite affable, I still don't really know much about her. In hindsight, it's surprising just how much she's extracted from me, really. You used to live together? Was it somewhere around here? It was pretty far south, so the trip into Yamaku was fairly long. With her working hours getting longer, and Yamaku being so far away, there's little choice in the end but to move into the dormitories. Well, that explains the chatter about cooking. Evidently regaining her composure, she livens back up, at least in part. I take it you're better rested now? Sorry? You sound less exhausted than you did when you first came in. To be able to pick out my breathing like that, she must have pretty good ears. Yeah, I ended up walking all over town, despite only planning on taking a short walk down here. Reminded of my thirst for my walk, I lean forward to take a sip. Without further ado, Lilly starts on her cup of strong-smelling tea. Guess I'd better get going back to Yamaku. There's only so long I can stall studying for, and I want to get a good night's sleep before the festival. Standing from my seat, I take the coffee-stained cup from the table. You're leaving? Yeah, are you gonna head back as well? It's getting kinda late. For a moment she pauses before lifting her face over a teacup as if she was looking at me. Yuko, could we have one more coffee, please? Okay, I'll bring it right away. That's not subtle. She gives a short giggle at my frank assessment of her maneuver, surprisingly childish and carefree, given her otherwise collected appearance. In the end, though, I have little reason to refuse. To be honest, I can hardly say no, all things considered. Giving a manufactured sigh, I take a seat opposite her. Wanting company, then? I'd say it's more that I was wondering. I see she's in questioning mode again. He does seem to be unusually interested in me, or at least curious. Do you have any siblings? Not exactly an unexpected tangent. No, only child. To be honest, the idea of having someone that close makes me a bit envious. Interesting. I raise an eyebrow, which of course goes unseen. The short silence communicates the question well enough. It's just that others have said the same thing before. It's a difficult subject to try and think about objectively, given that I've always had someone like that. I can mostly understand what Lilly means, given that it would be hard to place oneself outside of a situation they've been in all their life. She and her sister must have a pretty close relationship. Taking pains to interrupt us as little as possible, Yuko dutifully comes over and places a cup on the table. Lilly thanks her as I sit back, taking in this vexing girl in front of me. Despite always seeming to be on her guard and in control of herself when talking to others, she has an almost childlike curiosity about other people. That said, those rare moments she seems to slightly lower her guard are the most insightful into how she thinks. Reaching forward for my drink, I realize something I probably should have noticed earlier. I think I'm starting to become kind of curious about her. Despite making good pace, it's already nightfall by the time I reach the large iron gates in front of the school. Well, it's nice to have plenty of time to wander around by virtue of living right next to the school. I can't help but get the feeling that very few students actually take the opportunity. Compared to the number of students I see milling around on campus during free time, it's startlingly rare to see anyone around town. Given the large number of accommodations and facilities that the school offers, many of them might simply not see any point in venturing outside, let alone people such as Hanako and Kenji. It makes me wonder if students like Shizune, Misha, and Lilly are the exception for this school, rather than the norm. As I wander back to my dorm, I continue to compare my old school with Yamaku. As I do so, I begin to be surprised that I managed to get even this used to everything that's happened to me. Hey, we made it to the festival. Alright. Make a shave. Actually don't remember how Lilly's festival route goes. The next day, I wake up feeling a little lightheaded. It's almost noon already. Sleeping late is fine, since it's a Sunday and there are no classes. Not just a Sunday, though, but the festival as well. From my window, I can already see some people at the soba booth slinging noodles onto plates for people with a craving for low-quality food. I throw back a handful of morning meds and ponder how to spend the day. There will be a few exams in the coming week, but I don't consider those as ominous as others, so I'm not as worried about them as I probably should be. With no urgent obligations regarding education, I should be free to spend the day at the festival as I like. Finishing my morning routine, I exit into the hallway, intending to go out and find something to eat. Passing by his door, I decide to see what Kenji's up to today out of impulse. I'm curious if he has any plans, since everyone is doing something. Then again, I can picture him having built a soundproof shelter in his room. Or possibly something like a fort, complete with a no girls allowed sign. And with the girls crossed out and body crudely scrawled underneath it. Knocking on his door, which is luckily devoid of any kind of sign, I hear again the unsettling clicking of at least 10 locks being pulled back. The door opens a crack. Who is it? You're supposed to ask that before you open the door? Oh, it's you. Damn, it's early. It's not really that early. What is it, man? Nothing. I was just gonna ask what you're gonna do today. Half the school is out there already. Out where? Why? What? What? Is today special? Why are they there? Who are? I can hear them. It's loud. Don't tell me. Has the invasion begun? He suddenly looks more alarmed. What day is it, man? Yeah, I guess you can't see the big wooden booths outside and people selling stuff. What the hell are you talking about? I have my curtains closed at all times to thwart the snipers. It's the festival. You know that, right? Oh, shit, that's today? Damn. Damn it. I can't believe I forgot. I don't have my fort finished yet. This is bad. This is gonna be a very bad day. It's good you told me this, man. This is gonna be a bad day. Why? Oh man, they're gonna be everywhere. The people outside my window. Socializing. Kenji rubs his temple nervously, suddenly looking very ill. It's gonna be loud as hell. Damn, I was gonna go out today, but now it's ruined. Everything is ruined. This is awful. This sucks. This sucks. What the hell? This really sucks. I can't go anywhere now. There's nowhere to run. Kenji seems nervous. You even say he's majorly freaking out. Can't believe this. So that's what today was. Damn, I couldn't even prepare for it. I couldn't even brace myself, and now it's here. And I can't do anything. You've told me this earlier, dude. I mean, at least I know, but I could have known earlier. Imagine what I could have accomplished. Sorry, I thought you knew. So I guess you're not going to do anything today? The weather's even good. Yesterday was really windy, so I thought today would be cold. It's not, though, so there's no reason to just stay inside. Yeah, you should check the festival out. Kenji groans and covers his face with his hands. No, I can't do it. They'll eat me alive out there, I know it. That has to be a joke, but he said it with such a straight face. Relatively straight. What are you gonna do? We should hang out in here. You can help me build my fort. We might still make it if we work together. I don't know. I'm pretty hungry, so I thought I'd get some food first and then check out the attractions. Your class project seemed pretty cool, and I gave a hand with it, so I want to see it, at least that one, and chat with Lilly, I guess. Speaking of that, don't you have any obligation for the project? Are you out of your mind? That blind broad is up to no good. I can feel it in my spleen, man. Her presence is like a dark shadow that's in the way of my great vision. As expected of blind people. What? Besides, I thought that you were also... He holds up his hand to interrupt me. Only legally. Metaphorically, I can see farther than any man before me has seen. Kenji looks stoically into the metaphorical distance to emphasize his statement, thrusting his chin forward to look manlier. Actually, it's just the corridor wall 2 meters away, but it's all the same. I can see the future of mankind. It's a dark one unless the threat of women is stifled. They are everywhere. He fingers his scarf nervously, faster and faster like he's trying to start a fire. Slowly begins to calm down once the panic attack finishes running its course. I'm gonna have to find some place to hide, a safe haven, and then knock the lights out of myself so I don't have to experience this horrible day. I have the perfect thing for that. I must prepare now. Don't go to the festival. Okay. Later, dude. The door slowly closes with a low creak, and I don't know how to feel about what Kenji just said. After buying a plastic plate of takoyaki from a stall belonging to the class next to ours, I take a seat in the school gardens and watch people pass as I tentatively nibble away at the rather bland-tasting item. Thinking about takoyaki reminds me of Val's stream from earlier. She was drawing good old Jibo and chat got to talking about takoyaki. Still never had it. It sounds really good. At least as good as squid balls can sound. I guess I shouldn't complain. It's better than nothing and didn't cost much. As I look out towards the school, watching the people coming and going proves a surprisingly entertaining way of passing the time as I eat. Little children accompanied by parents or grandparents scamper about in the din from event to event, one hand dragging their company and the other bearing an oversized, colorful snack. I can't help but notice the age range among the people here is skewed towards the elderly, something I'd also noticed when I was walking around town. This must be one of those towns where the only people left are those that lived here their whole lives and ardently refused to leave, and those wanting to live out the rest of their days in one of the increasingly few tranquil places. I guess that also goes away to explaining how conservative Yamaku's school culture seems to be. Not that I mind one bit. I kind of like how calm Yamaku and its surroundings are. The heat, though, is another matter entirely. Sitting in one place for so long has focused my mind on how annoyingly humid it's getting, now that the hottest part of the day is here. I better get moving if I... Yeah. The sound of the Carolyn bells takes me completely by surprise as I stand up, a reaction shared by a few of the people strolling around as well. The PA system crackles to life after the tolling bells end. Its age shows as the principal makes a barely intelligible announcement over it, officially opening the festival that's very much in full swing. It's quite amusing to contrast the pleasant smiles of the older folk against the alternatively pained and bored grimaces of their younger charges. The students, on the other hand, seem to pay it little heed. Nevertheless, as the applause finally ends, all are united in polite, if not overly enthusiastic, applause, and they get back to business. Slipping a hand in my pocket to look as relaxed as possible, I casually glance around for something to do. It's somewhat difficult to see very far with all the people around. I decide to fall back on a tried and trusted rule. Go where everyone else seems to be gathering. Right now, that's the school courtyard and surroundings. Throwing the used plate into a trash can, I make my way towards the school building. Seeing the number of stalls around the perimeter of the school building surprises me. Quite a few of the classes must have opted to have multiple stalls. Deciding which to visit first, I catch sight of a familiar banner with a blue patterned border and red text. Lilly's stall is as good a place to start as any. I'm curious as to how it's going after all the work she and her class have been doing for it. Stepping up to it, I begin to see why the class took so long to organize everything. Easily twice as wide as many of the other stalls, and with equipment for cooking strewn everywhere, it's closer to an outdoor restaurant than a festival event. As a student in front of me takes a bowl of noodles and leaves, I walk up to the counter. The girl behind it seems quite exasperated, and asks me to wait a moment before she disappears underneath the counter. Seizing the moment, I take a quick glance around. Steam seems to be rising from everywhere, as pots and pans simmer away. The most blind of the students are unpacking ingredients while being helped by someone who is probably the teacher of 3-2. It doesn't take long to notice Lilly among them, talking with the teacher as she quickly counts out the boxes and packets with her fingers. From her expression and the fact that both she and a teacher seem to be in a state of mild confusion, it appears there has been some problem in coordination. Before I can stare any longer, the girl behind the counter pops up again, only to look back and ask where the spare change box is. Lilly pauses for a moment before she and the girl switch places at the counter, and the teacher quickly walks off somewhere. Sorry about that. We're having a few problems. What would you like? It takes me a second to remember what I'd come here for. My eyes quickly dart to the side to read the menu sitting on the counter. Oh, I guess some miso soup. Ah, is that Hiseo? Yep. Looks like you're pretty busy. Her face all but confirms it as she drops her waitress facade. Somewhere along the line, our order got mixed up. We're trying to fix it now, but it looks like we only have half of what we need. Wouldn't serving smaller portions cover over the problem? It seems like that's what we'll have to do, though I wish we didn't. The fact that a good half of our class is gone doesn't help either. I glance behind her to see how many people are actually operating the stall. Couldn't be over about 8. I take it that's why your teacher left? That's right. She's going to try and round up a few more of our classmates to help. Hearing the sound of footsteps behind me, I stealthily glance backwards to see an elderly couple taking a place in the line. I guess I'd better stop loitering around and chatting. Here's the money for the soup. Soup? Oh, right. Coming right out. Lilly turns and calls for a bowl of miso soup as I hand over the money for it. Taking the coins in her palm, I can't help but notice how efficiently she counts them out with her long, pale fingers. Eventually satisfied I've handed over correct change, she puts it into a small metal tray. It isn't long before the soup is made and carefully handed to her, after which she turns and subsequently passes it to me. Thanks. I'll come back to drop off the bowl. Thank you, Hiseo. Oh, there is one other thing. Have you seen Hanako? Hanako? No, not today. Why? She gives a small sigh of abject disappointment. It's okay. I was just wondering what she was doing for the festival. You'll come back when you're done, then? Sure. I'll keep an eye out for Hanako, too. Thank you, Hiseo. I walk off from the stall and find a seat, carefully cradling the steaming wooden bowl in both hands. Compared to the dumplings from before, this is quite nice. A little cool compared to what it probably should be, perhaps, but the flavor is enough to cover for that reasonably well. As I drink, I can't help but feel somewhat guilty for not being as involved in the festival as the others. It can't really be helped, considering I was dropped into the school only a week ago, but it still weighs heavily on my mind. That and the fact that a few students don't seem to be enjoying the festival as much as the visitors. Eventually, I finish my bowl and leave for the stall to drop it off. Considering that there seems to be no line at all, I take my time walking up. It seems that the teacher's mission paid off. There are now over a dozen students helping, and much of the unpacking has been done. Despite most of them seeming quite relaxed as they work, Lilly still appears to be somewhat stressed. Right. I know what I'll do. Even if it's just one person, I'll make the festival more enjoyable for her. As I place the bowl on the counter, I call out to Lilly. Ah, Hiseo, you brought it back? Yeah, here. I slide it into her hands, and she takes it over to someone who's apparently on cleaning duty. Seeing that I didn't see them before, it's probably a penalty for their tardiness. Hey, Lilly? She perks up and returns to the counter as she hears my voice again, realizing that I'm still here. Want to go see some more of the festival? She puffs her cheeks disapprovingly. It looks kind of cute, in complete contradiction to her usual reserved nature. It takes a few seconds for me to get what she's taking issue with. Whoops. I didn't mean to. Lilly giggles at me, exposing her teasing for what it is. You're still not used to the school, are you? She got me. Still, I kind of need to stay with our stall. It's taken until just now to even get everything unpacked. I guess her reluctance shouldn't overly surprise me, considering how much work she's put into this. Everything seems to be running fine now, though. Besides, you've got extra help on hand anyway. A boy in the middle of cooking some soba noodles turns toward us, grinning. Go on, Lils. You've earned yourself a break. We can hold down the fort for now. If you say it's okay, then I suppose. But if you need any help... Then we'll call you. Go on. We'll be fine. Lilly finally gives up her resistance as he waves a spatula at her. She feels her way around the back of the stall and picks up her cane on the way. I guess the first thing we should do is look for Hanako. Lilly seems kind of worried about her, and I doubt she'd be the kind of person to enjoy milling about in a crowd like this all alone. So, I guess we should search for Hanako. Where to, first? Both of us go quiet for a moment to think. Maybe she's in her dorm room? I doubt it. She doesn't keep too many things in there, so she'd have nothing to do. Ah, the library? As good a place as any to search for an avid reader, I suppose. The library it is. We'll check there first, then. Aside from the muffled sound of the crowd seeping in from outside, the inside of the school seems almost deserted. In order to make sure everyone had enough room, I guess that all events were organized to be held outside, on school grounds. They're definitely quite large, by any other school standards. It's nice and quiet in here, isn't it? Yeah, much nicer than the hustle and bustle outside. We take our time and slowly walk through the first floor of the school, eventually reaching the stairs to the second floor. I can't help but notice how Lilly anticipates every door and obstacle, her cane remaining still and her hands skating along the hallway railings. You really know the school well, don't you? She smiles and nods straight ahead. I've been here for a few years now, so I know where everything is. The dorms still trip me up, though, sometimes. I haven't been there as long, and they're not as well laid out as the main building. If I'm remembering right, they used to be unused buildings before being renovated and used as dormitories. That explains why the male and female dorms look different from the outside, and why their rooms seem kind of unusual for sleeping quarters. I'd assumed she'd been living in the dorms since she began attending the school, but now I'm reminded of what she said yesterday. That's right, you mentioned that before. I'd assumed that most of the students here lived in the dormitories once they enrolled. A lot of them seem to, in any case. Lily's expression becomes somewhat harder to read, my questioning evidently touching on a delicate point. Well, how should I say? Everyone has their reasons. Something tells me that one of those reasons... Something tells me that one of those with reasons is Hanako, hence her tiptoeing around the answer. My own predicament is yet another such case. I guess it's a choice everyone here would have to make for themselves, or in my instance, have made for them. It can't be helped, I suppose. At least, Yamaku itself seems like a nice place. It's good to hear you say that. I'd thought you were coming to dislike it. What about you, though? My reversal of Lily's statement takes her by surprise. I've been here for a while, so... It's not that. You just seem pretty depressed about Akira. What's with that look? Akira's taken. Sorry, Hiseo. Lily never sees how fast my palm meets my face at her sly accusation. Hey, I was worried about you. That's no way to respond to concern. Well, she gives an amused grin. We round the corner of the hallway and enter the library. As we do so, it isn't hard to spot Hanako, showing that the room is completely devoid of anyone else. Given that there are no staff around, I guess there's no need to heed the usual library rules. I call out to her. Hey, Hanako. Hanako is here? As she hears our voices, Hanako's head flicks up from behind a book, probably the same one she'd been reading on Friday. Hiseo? Lily? Just thought we'd drop by. Lily just managed to escape from the noodle stall with a little help. That wasn't really an escape. Hanako gives a small giggle, briefly surprising both of us. I just thought that Lily might not be enjoying the festival. Well, now we can enjoy it together, right? The two nod happily before we set out of the library and towards the festivities. I hand over some change to the girl behind the counter, and we take the 2 styrofoam cups of tea. I try to accentuate my bow a bit to cover the fact that she's quite obviously deaf. Come to think of it, I probably should have asked for help instead of leaving those 2 in the gardens while I bought drinks. Trying to juggle the 2 hot cups of tea for them and a can of coffee for myself out of a vending machine isn't exactly easy. Some careful maneuvering, though, I managed to keep everything stable and upright as I walk over to the bench where Lily and Hanako are sitting and chatting. It's actually quite a nice place. Lit only by moonlight, it's tucked away some distance from the main events. Compared to how hot it had been during the day, the spot is also pleasantly cool by now. Not that it matters all that much. Most of the visitors have moved to areas that are either closer to the fireworks or higher on the hill in order to view the display I apparently planned. Welcome back, Hiseo. Her ears are good. I'm not exactly close, and even Hanako hadn't noticed me. Here you go. Sorry it's instant, but that's all they had left by now. Hanako gingerly takes a cup from my right hand, and I gently place the other into Lily's outstretched hands. Did you enjoy the festival then, Hiseo? Yeah, it was pretty fun. An honest answer. Much of the food may have been somewhat subpar, but it was a lot of fun in the end, especially with Hanako and Lily. In fact, I think those 2 may have enjoyed themselves even more than I did. With both Lily and me around, much of Hanako's withdrawn nature around others died down enough for her to enjoy herself. Oh, alright, gonna have to remember this for Epilepsy Warning. As we sit drinking, the whistle of the first firework rings out before it explodes into a vibrant shower of blue against the night sky, heralding the beginning of the end for the festival. Enthusiastic shouts can be heard from the crowds scattered around the school grounds celebrating them. For minutes on end, Hanako and I watch the fireworks overhead as Lily blissfully listens to them with her eyes shut. Red, green, yellow, star-shaped, circular, and patterned, and all manner of shapes and colors fill the air, one after the other, and dance across the sky. No place near where I lived put on such lavish displays. Festivals like this were a thing of the past in such a metropolitan area. To be seeing such a sight with these 2, it's probably the happiest I've been in a long while. So, that's it. The festival's finally ending. Yeah. She gives a delicate, wistful sigh. As much as I might complain about all the stuff we have to do, still sad that we'll have graduated before the next Yamaku festival. I walk forwards and stand beside Lily, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry. We still have Tanabata later in the year, right? You're right. It would be nice to go there when it comes. Minutes of silence pass, with only the blast of the fireworks to be heard. Seeing those two reminds me of the words of advice Lilly had given me as we walked into town together. Cherish the opportunity to make new friends, huh? Hey, Lilly. She turns her head slightly to show that she's listening. Hanako's gaze still firmly fixed on the technicolor fireworks bursting overhead. You mind if I join you two for tea every now and again? The smile on her face is more than enough to see her answer. It would be a pleasure, Hiseo. Hey, hey, hey. Act 2. Past. Alright. How about that? The act cutscene for Lilly is interesting, isn't it? If you look at that, look. There's Lilly. If we go into the library, we now have Lilly stuff. Because Act 1 is all the same. Except there's a lot that we don't have for Act 1 yet. But, yep. And we have our second one. So, just like that, we have completed Act 1 of Lilly. Even with the hour and 40 minutes gone from the first part, it still took 3 hours. Act 1 is long. It is always going to be long. And I feel like after actually going through the second time, I'm going to start speeding it up for the next 3 routes. Because it's going to get awfully boring to watch the same stuff until, let's see, because with Shizune actually, with Shizune and Emi, you do get the different stuff. So I'll play it by ear, basically, is what I'm saying. Anyways, just like that, we're firmly on the way our second route. Earl Grey. And, alright. Tomorrow? Well, technically today. It is already Friday. I was thinking about playing maybe Minecraft. Minecraft might be fun. I might actually play on the on Jibo's server. I'll check in there if I can stream it. But playing on Jibo's server should be fun. So get a nice start on that. Otherwise, probably no stream on Saturday, like I'd said. That I'll play by ear as well. Sunday, I'll stream after Val streams, because I want to watch Val and Novella play the new Ace Attorney. And alright. If you enjoyed, please leave a follow to get notifications for the next stream. Please follow me on Twitter at AriaOfTheStar for game and stream updates and whatever inane bullshit I'm tweeting about. And then follow my YouTube, AriaOfTheStar, for VODs of all of these streams. And I hope you have a great night, a great afternoon, wherever it is where you may be. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next stream. Thank you for coming by.